So yeah, house stuff.
Yeah, totally. You know, I don't even know why this started showing up on my Instagram, but I'm so interested in creating a terrarium, which is just you take like a polar water bottle like that big thing, and you could put like bonsai dirt,
Okay.
some little bit of growth stuff, different kinds of plants. You put snails, potato bugs, and things in there. You spray it down and get the dirt wet enough. You could cap it for life and never ever open it, and it becomes this ecosystem unto itself. It doesn't even need sunlight; it just needs the light of your house. And it's an Instagram channel of this guy who just makes these beautiful like artisanal terrariums.
How do they get air in it?
Because what do plants create? They breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out
wow.
oxygen.
So it's a balance of the bugs. And
it's a full ecosystem, yeah. And like the bugs eat like the old dead stuff, and then they create the fertilizer to grow food and shit like that. And you should see what this guy makes. His terrarium Instagram channel is so popular that like Marvel commissions him to do like to make a terrarium that has like a little Iron Man in there or something. And he did like a Jurassic, like did one with like little dinosaurs, but he created just like with tweezers, like putting in like clippings of ferns and shit, and then the ferns grow root systems.
That's neat.
Yeah, and you see the humidity like get created. It goes on the side. And I just read an article that of a guy who created a terrarium in like 1971, and he's never opened it, and it still is totally thriving, just sitting in the side of his living room. He's capped it, and they'll even be so bold about it, like they'll cap it with like silicone to prove like we'll never open this, and it just fully, it rains like it does, like it's like a humidity. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's really cool, and I think it's not hard. You just need the right you need the right soil, and you need to not douse it so that it's like unlivable. But if it catches, like it lives
That's
forever.
interesting.
Yeah.
I saw I went to the home show a couple months ago, and they had a guy that it was like all bonsai. It was like Pittsburgh Bonsai Society or something, and that shit's really strange and interesting. And I was looking when I was looking at trees to grow a rainbow eucalyptus as a bonsai.
Yeah.
Because like you couldn't grow it outside here.
Right.
But potentially you could grow it in there. And the way that I understand that, it's kind of like binding. Like you're essentially taking, like that's the magic of some of that stuff, is like you're taking these trees that should be huge, but because you're containing them how they're growing.
Yeah.
Like it's really, there was some weird stuff there. That guy, there must have been 100 plants there, and it was kind of bizarre.
Yeah, as I understand, like bonsai is a practice. So like, and it's like that thing of like, if you released your goldfish into a bigger pond, it becomes a koi. Like, if you grow a tree in that small container, it will take the shape of that container. But then you have to maintain it.
Yeah, I was thinking of going down the rabbit hole of, I wanted to see kitchens operating.
Yeah.
Like maybe, I don't know, just, mount a fixed camera and watch them go through a dinner rush or something.
Yeah.
Because that stuff, like I said, it was great to read, but man, I just can't imagine that as a lifestyle.
Yeah, I didn't tell you this one part. Like when I was living in Southside with, let me let the guys know, man, Eastman and Laird, guest today again.
Those were weird issues, 6 and 7.
We're getting us out of the extraterrestrial and back to land, man.
It feels so much like they must be thinking of like, what's a cartoon of this look like? But I don't know if they are or not.
I don't. I think these extraterrestrial shits. And we'll ask them the question. I think that is Laird's interest. So it's like let's one for me, one for you type shit. Like, all right, Pete, we'll do your Triceratons storyline or whatever.
It also feels like they're laying down that track live, where we got to ride our way back.
Right.
We're stuck on it.
Yeah, because it goes a while.
Yeah, it does.
Jimmy, I'm just gonna make a tea and then hit the bathroom and then we'll be good.
Okay. What's up, everybody? Man, we have a good slate of books this week. feel like we always have a pretty good slate of books. But Wonder Woman making an appearance this week. I think the first time that we're looking at one of her titles. Going to go to Venice in one of these stories. I don't know how many people have been to Venice, but I went last year, and it is about the coolest thing I've ever seen. Finishing up the original Image books, like the original launch titles from Image. We're going to be looking at the last one of those today, and that is Wetworks, even though it kind of didn't come out in the timely fashion it was intended. It was definitely one of the books that was talked about in the very beginning. So, should be pretty fun. Garth Ennis' first Punisher book. Yeah. I don't know how much you guys overheard, but I was talking about reading Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential for the first time this week. That's a great book if you've never read it. Some interesting ideas on creativity and craft. Some cool ruminations on artist versus craftsman. And yeah, I think about that sometimes with comics. I feel like that's something we've talked about before. The idea of like a really great artist is not necessarily a really great comic. If you're stopping and staring at the art in some ways, that is not good for the story experience. So, fun book to read. I was drawing comics this week. I think this next one that I'm in the middle of is going to end up being black and white, which is kind of fun. I haven't drawn a comic that was intended for black and white in quite a while.
I just realized I got to email the link to us.
Also ran outside for the first time in a while.
Oh, man, I'll be getting some in, dude. Every day.
Yeah, I think yesterday it was like 79 degrees.
Yeah, it was nice. I actually put the AC in my bedroom.
I uncovered my AC, but I didn't turn it on. I had all the windows open yesterday.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too bad. A little bit warm last night.
I wanted to sleep like a baby last night for Kayfabe purposes.
Yeah, I had another bad night of sleep.
Yeah, so
Natalie came home last night at like 1 in the morning.
From her trip?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know how it goes. You got to get up and
debrief and
catch up.
Make sure to homestead as well.
All my cats go insane whenever she's gone for a couple days. So, like, they're laying all over the place and laying on me in bed when I'm trying to sleep. One of the plans that I have, like I was cleaning up this week while the wife was away, going through my stacks of books that seem to accumulate. Man, it loads up quickly. But ended up with a bunch of short boxes of comics that I need to put back into the permanent archives. And I think I'm going to pull the adult books and the underground comics as I file away the stuff that needs to be filed.
So you could just have that section?
Yeah, because I have like, the problem with undergrounds is they're all weird size.
Yeah, that's true.
And weird titles. Like I never know what I actually have. And I figure it's just better to have, because I don't have that many underground comics and I'd like to have more. But just pull them out and have their own little section. And then the adult comics, kind of the same deal, especially because that's what I'm working on. At some point, I'm going to be doing an adult comic, I think. At least it's in my brain. I don't know if I actually do one of those or not, but
I recommend it.
I have a lot of ideas for it.
Because, like, the thing is, here's the thing, dude. Like, we have this platform that we have built-in people who dig us, who support us. And, like, we can help create just like new viable genre possibilities and shit. Like doing the gore comic was that, and the fact that there's like Image fucking copycat Red Room comics, it's like mission accomplished, man. Because like why not have some crazy shit? So like you do an adult comic, you do it right, you do it popular. Why not, man? Why wouldn't other people jump on board again? We have all adults who watch the channel.
I've started writing it, so probably that means it will eventually happen. Yeah. And I have some ideas for it that I think are unique for that genre.
That's good.
So, but like I said before, I've enjoyed these short story kind of approach, and I've got a few of those also written down.
Yeah. So
we'll see. Never enough time.
Yeah, no, and like I'm in my 40-year-old midlife crisis thing, that like how Alan Moore's like I'm a magician when he turns 40. That was like his declaration. Like I'm trying to burn the candle at both ends and do a second of animation per day and starting on a daily strip. all the daily strips, by the way, like I'm, going through all these books. I never noticed this before, but the start of every daily strip is not dated, it's numbered, and sometimes it's the samples. So like it's the stuff that they sent to get considered or something. So they don't know when it's going to start to come out. So instead of 4/3/29, it's 1, 2, 3 for some time, and you can see that like Lou Abner had 30 strips done before a firm date was set, before he can start to date them accordingly. And that was just like an interesting thing. It was something I need to make note of. So like as I produce my strips, I'm just going to number them for a while and then think of the proper release date, which I think, because you want to build a queue, you want to have some time to fucking have the flu and like go on a vacation or something. But I'm thinking like back to school time is like the perfect time for me to release mine. So work on it once I get back from Japan. I'm probably gonna start working on it real soon. Build up a queue, and then maybe August 1st put out the first one or something like that. This past week is an R&D week where I'm looking at formats, trying to figure out a manageable system where I can do it daily as a strip and stuff. And the animation, I feel like, is no problem. We have all the tools here to create a better animation studio than Mike Judge had. Clearer, all the same techniques and stuff. You train these lights down. You tape down the pegboard. You got this. There's an app called Stop Motion Studio, and then you pay for the upgraded version, and it gives you access to a remote camera. So like I could set the phone up as the camera, and then this app, and then just like we have with the monitor, and just tick off the pictures on the app, and then just move this stuff. And then when you realize like really what's needed for animation and how you can milk it, like you can milk an extra second of just not holding on a frame, but like do 2 of the same drawing where it kind of looks pulsy, instead of just that, and then extend that a little bit. It makes sense because like there might be a moment where you just need to kind of hold that pose or something. Doing a second animation, I don't think is going to be too tough. Except like the next section that I have with my girl, I wanted her to get up and pull out some nunchucks and kind of like fuck up a little bit, but then go and like that is probably going to be pretty tough. I can't find the square.
All right, man. I'm ready whenever you are.
Yes, sir.
Hello and welcome to YouTube's favorite comic book channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
And before we begin, I want to remind everybody that we do have a Cartoonist Kayfabe Patreon now available. 3 different levels there will get you access to our videos early. And at the King Kayfaber level, you'll have access to all the videos as well as the recording session. So right now, King Kayfabers, hello, welcome. We also are working cartoonists. And you can see our bibliography on the screen right now in front of us. Easiest way to support Cartoonist Kayfabe is to buy our books.
Just show the front cover, like the newsstand cover, and your variant if you want. But we could breeze through. But also definitely the hip hop too.
Ed's latest books available for pre-order now is Hip Hop Family Tree, the Omnibus. This will be coming out later this year, collecting all of the Hip Hop Family Tree strips in one handsome, oversized hardcover, 140 pages of new material in addition to all of the Hip Hop Family Tree strips. Also, the 3rd season of Red Room, Crypto Killers, #1, will be in stores in a couple of months. Pre-orders are due now for all of the Red Room Crypto Killers books. So let your local comic shop or wherever you buy these books know ahead of time that you want them. Add them to your pull box and make sure you don't miss an issue. A lot of cool variants as per usual. Peach, me, a sketch cover, Ed variant. His other books include the first 2 seasons of Red Room, X-Men Grand Design 3 volumes plus an omnibus, the Hip Hop Family Tree original Treasury size edition still available, and WYSIWYG if you can find it somewhere. Pick that one up because I think that might be out of print. My next book, Street Angel, Princess of Poverty, will be coming out, I guess, early summer from Image Comics. This collects all of the Street Angel material that is not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, along with a story that has never been published anywhere before. You can pre-order that one now to make sure that you don't miss it. You can also pick up my other books, Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes and Street Angel Deadliest Girl are my latest and greatest, so get those wherever you buy comics. And today, Ed, we are going to look at a bit of a classic here. Punisher kills the Marvel Universe. Significant for one big reason, Garth Ennis' first writing of the Punisher. This is from 1995. This is actually a second printing from, I think, 99 or 2000. But it's still Garth Ennis' first take on the Punisher, a character that he spent a lot of time with.
And still,
since then.
and still might be spending time with that. I just don't even know.
Maybe coming up on 30 years of working on Punisher for Garth.
The character's built for him. Especially what he brings to the kind of comics he makes is that dark humor part. And he always finds a way to fucking make me crack up. And even in a story like this, he got me really... He got me to pop, Jimmy.
Yeah, I always think anytime we talk about doing Punisher, I'm always like, man, that's not the character that I connected to as a kid. Or I'm not the reader that I was as a kid. And this was a lot of fun. Which is, again, not a characteristic I always associate with the Punisher. Doug Braithwaite, is he a cross-gen alumni?
Not familiar. Not familiar. Like, his art was good in here. I would call it functional.
Right. All these guys, I remember, again, my first couple years of employment was sort of the early days of internet comics coverage. And when cross-gen went down, all those dudes flooded back to Marvel and DC, and all of them were good. I think sitting in a room with each other, they sharpened each other's skills, and I swear Doug Braithwaite was part of that group in my mind. But we will see. Not inking, and I don't know when he actually gets into the game, but I started reading this, and I'm like, oh man, I don't really like this art. I gotta tell you, like, overall, I think the art's pretty good in here. It's expressive, it does the job, it doesn't get in the way of anything.
Right, yeah, but you know, that's not legend building. You know, like this comic could have been like the great masterpiece with the right guy, you know, and I'm not talking shit, it's functional work.
It's also interesting because in 1995, I don't know who style-wise what this is. You know, this is still kind of, you're living in the shadow of the Image guys, I think, for the most part. And this stuff is not that.
Right.
So I applaud that. What is funny, though, is the young Matt Murdock. I read this first page and was, like, laughing pretty hard at what Kid Murdock and Frank Castle look like as middle schoolers there.
Yeah, totally.
That's a big head on Frank Castle.
You know, that's the comics idiom of the superhero guys, right? You got to draw a kid, put big ass eyes on him, and make the head gigantic. The page one lets you know we're in Elseworlds territory. You know, this is a singular comic. It's divorced from the Marvel universe, the Marvel canon. It's its own thing, which in itself is adventurous. I think, man, because Marvel really wasn't doing Elseworlds type stuff where you have the opportunity to do like one and done stories, and frankly the conceit of like Elseworlds, it's stupid. It's just like let guys make their ultimate statement with this character, that character, like fuck your canon and all this kind of shit. So this exists in its own time space. It's its own thing. Garth Ennis was given the platform to kind of make his ultimate statement. He hates capes and cowls. It's fully on display here. And he's afforded the opportunity, thanks to the success of Preacher and stuff, that he's given this room to kill the darlings, man.
Do you think this starts out as a what if, and Marvel sees some of the script or story and is like, oh yeah, this should be its own spinoff?
Yeah,
I mean, It's kind of a what if setup.
All that shit. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's the opportunity for these guys to make their ultimate comic. They got to brand it, of course. But yeah, it makes sense. Why not? Sure, it was a what if. So Frank Castle is he's a policeman, and his wife and kids are at Central Park whenever a schmoz goes down. And you know what this comic also is? It's what was that 1990 comic that was like a Damage Control?
Yeah, Damage Control.
Like where they were trying to. It was the idea of these superhero fights have consequences, and then this group cleans things up. But like, what would that really look like in a way? You know, if there are these superpowered beings doing this kind of thing, there are definitely casualties. The Great Miracle Man comic comes to mind, where, you know, the protagonist picks up a car full of people and starts bashing the bad guy with it, decimating the people inside that car. This is better than any Damage Control comic. I'm gonna hazard a guess.
You know what's great about it is page 1, page 2, page 3. We're all set up.
Yeah.
Like this is the Frank Castle driving like a maniac once he hears this is happening in Central Park and his family's there. Races to the scene of the crime. The superheroes have won.
Right.
They've won the day and are kind of callously here talking about the innocents that were lost in the crossfire, if you will, and pretty callous in how they describe it.
Yeah, and Frank Castle's family is amongst the deceased thanks to Cyclops' optic blast. He gets from Castle, like Castle gets a very stoic, "I'm sorry." What's that piece say? I'm sitting to the side.
We didn't know they were there.
And he goes, "You're sorry," pulls out the jammy and fucking shoots Cyclops in the head.
Point blank right there. I gotta applaud Garth Ennis's economy. We've got 48 pages or 64 pages or something here. We're gonna get into this by page 4.
If you gotta kill a universe of characters, you gotta get started.
Yeah, it goes from there to Kitty Pryde next, which gets Wolverine involved, and boy, things escalate quickly. Matt Murdock shows up to represent Frank Castle, who is, of course, convicted. Life imprisonment is his sentence for killing a couple of these superheroes in cold blood.
Yeah.
And before he gets to the prison, there's a detour and a bunch of rich people who are the damage control victims.
Right.
The people who have lost someone or been mutilated in the superhero crossfire. They have a lot of resources when they all get together, and they are putting those resources behind payback.
Yes.
And that means bribing some people to get Frank Castle in their employ. And they basically offer him this job, like, we've got the resources, whatever you need. And he says, it's going to take a long time. That's fine. They're looking for justice. He's looking for payback. This is unlikely bedfellows, but this is the money behind the new Punisher.
Yes, and who he's looking to punish are these super beings, man, who are too full of themselves and not thinking about Joe America.
We want you to kill them all. Very bloodthirsty group. And once again, that's what I just described. It's another 4 pages, and you turn the page, and we are there. This is Punisher making his first appearance here with the skull costume and wasting no time. Like, he's gone through killing a couple of superheroes already, being convicted, and now being built to go out with money behind him, and let's kill the Marvel Universe.
As a fun thought exercise, as a creative, it must have been a joy to figure out, like, how would you kill Spider-Man? You have to design this stuff as the creative team, as the writer. Like, how would you do away with Spider-Man? Like, what are his kryptonites? How can you make this happen? And so there's creative deaths all through this thing.
I will say that these superheroes get taken out pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
This is they become sort of the foot soldiers that you see in the movies that get wiped out and can't shoot straight.
Yeah.
Very quickly in this treatment, but again, Garth Ennis pretty clear that he doesn't like superheroes, so treat them like idiots. And you know what? If you're Spider-Man and you're not lifting something that weighs 10 tons, what are you good at? It's not like you've been trained in anything.
Right.
So, get your money shot here on a page turn. Get Microchip shows up, right?
Yeah. He was another victim of superheroes. Like, that's the conceit there. There was a part, maybe it was a little bit earlier, where they were talking about, we want you to kill, don't worry, it's just a dialogue thing. We want you to kill all the superheroes, ... and the X-Men, or something like the X-Men were like an adjacent kind of thing.
Yeah, that feels like that must have been an editorial thing, I would guess, because that was how X-Men were viewed, as like the outlaws, right? They weren't the same as the superheroes. Maybe Ennis knew that, but either way, like, that's a nice detail. I caught that one too.
Yeah.
Hulk smash. How are you gonna defeat the Hulk? Pretty easy. Wait for him to revert back to Jekyll. Go up and just shoot him.
Yeah.
2 pages to get rid of the Hulk.
Yeah, while he's like sleeping like a bum or something. Did that hurt your feelings? See, this
is mildly offensive.
This is that's an Eternity Comics Malibu hand right there.
That scene too.
Yeah. It's not the greatest. Like this could have been such a legendary comic with the right artist, but maybe there's also just the deadline conceits.
There are several inkers, which always points to deadline for me. 6 inkers is not great, and most of those inkers are names I haven't seen before.
Yeah, like Ennis is the only name on this, man. The rest are just job dudes.
I don't think Dylan did the original cover either. I can't remember who that was, but it's kind of cool.
Might have
that
been
original
Brathwaite,
cover
like a
is
pile of dudes or something.
Right, exactly. A pile of superheroes.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. Coming in with both guns ablazing, and gonna go now and confront Wilson Fisk, Kingpin,
Right.
who gets more pages than the Hulk, by the way. That's disrespectful, Garth. Kingpin just bending up guns like they're made, like they're coat hangers.
This is a Looney Tunes comic.
It is very much so.
Like Punisher is a Looney Tune, is Wile E. Coyote to Garth Ennis. Man, you just like put him out there, like let him kill stuff. How many times did he kill Punisher? Garth Ennis alone, right? Like we looked at that Richard Corbin comic. Spoilers, like at the end of this one.
And this time kills Kingpin, but is trapped underneath him.
Yeah,
it has to go back through the system again.
Yeah.
Which starts to create some. That's not always going to work. Gets harder and harder to bust you out, Frank.
Yeah.
Costs more money, but nevertheless, that's what happens. Next stop.
And what that shows is a little bit of rift.
Yes.
Between those like Gimps and Frank.
He's like, I've got the high-tech weaponry I needed from the Kingpin's lab. How's he pull that off while he's like pinned under Kingpin?
Right, yeah, microchip at work with his no legs.
Parachuting into Latveria to confront Doctor Doom, throws some kind of disc magnetic thing on his helmet, and he is building his weapon cache. Right. Like this is what this is escalating through the weapons, which is kind of neat. It's almost procedural. Like if you're Garth Ennis writing this, you're escalating not just who he's fighting or whatever, but also the capability that he's amassing.
Because there are just guys that are going to be a little bit tougher. And just upon this read, because this will be the second time I've ever gone through it. I read it the first time, and like seeing this, like this pays off.
Yes. Yeah, it's a clear setup. Again, I go back to that economy, and it makes me think like if Garth Ennis approaches most of his comics that way.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think that's one of his strengths for sure. This is fantastic, man. You got hyperbolic dialogue between the baddies and the goodies. You got all the mutants. You got a couple dozen characters. Juggernaut is out there. They're on the moon. It's comic books, so we don't have to worry about little glass domes on their heads or anything like that. Maybe Storm created she terraformed the moon for the moment. The bad guys show up because of an invitation from the good guys. The good guys show up from an invitation for the bad guys, and then they're wondering, well, if you didn't invite us and we didn't invite you.
He parent trapped them.
Flip it to drop a nuke on all of them, man.
There's so much ridiculousness going on there.
Yeah. I mean, this is Wile E. Coyote falling off a plateau or something.
100%. It's such a weird comic. The weird part is like Marvel being like, sure, let's do this.
It's got to be Axel, right? Like, is he in the midst?
No,
yet?
He's not there yet. I think it's I think Bob Harris is your editor-in-chief at the time. He is for this reprint. I don't know if he is in 95 or not. 95, man. It could still be DeFalco, possibly.
Yeah. Shit, Axel's still at friggin'. He's just the Vertigo editor for Preacher at this point.
Wolverine not on the moon for some reason, not being a good X-Men there.
Well, he's drinking his sorrows away. Like he's psychological.
That looks like a Mickey's bottle.
Here's the other thing. Like so much time transpires. So like he was on some mission. This could be years later because he's talking about even other hero. Like the Avengers are dead. So many more people are dead. So there will be allusions to 3 years have passed, 5 years have passed. This is a long process. That these like 40 pages or whatever sort of take place.
A tiny little digital effect here early. This figure's blurred. It's very bizarre because nothing else in the background is blurred. It's just the figure.
Yeah.
Early digital. Some of the coloring, you see that too, where it's like some bizarre face shadows and things that the colorist is taking it upon themselves to add in there. And Wolverine's hair and nuts. He had some there were weird dudes post-image that were drawing Wolverine in some strange ways. There was a Wolverine Punisher crossover, I don't know if you remember it, where his hair is just bonkers, but it's kind of in this direction.
Yeah, this kind of hair is basically what Adam Kubert started to do with the hair. It became a very small face and big giant hair. I think probably inspired by Weapon X, the Barry Windsor Smith style, like towards the end where the hair gets like very feral. And we do have a previous video that we posted with Garth Ennis's 2-issue team up between Punisher and Wolverine that was drawn by Derek Robertson, where Punisher point blank range, pistol grip, sawed-off shotgun, shoots Wolverine in the face very early, and through the rest of the comic, it's like the Terminator skull face running around on adventures with
Such a great
Punisher.
visual.
Incredible.
But that's not what we're going to get here. This time, he just fries him all the way down to the adamantium skeleton.
Right. I was really... This one was underwhelming to me because it's like we know that he rebuilds and stuff, and we've seen him decimated a lot. What I really needed to see was you chop the head off, you put some weight to it, you take it to the Marianas Trench, and then you just like let it explosively decompress as it, you know, it have it turn into a marble or something down there, and yeah.
Yeah, it's underwhelming too because like you're getting. This is one of the longest sequences.
Right,
5
exactly.
pages, but we don't have a big money shot. It's
It's
there in theory, but it's not the big payoff. It's not a big moment.
I actually do not doubt that Ennis went there in his iteration, but editorial reels him back in. I give him the benefit of the doubt with so much because he has such a big body of work and really pushes things that whenever you get an underwhelming moment, I feel like that was the B choice to what he originally wanted to do. That Marvel was like, you know, we're having fun here, but you can't really shit on our icons that much. Especially the cartoon. If this is 95, I think the cartoon is still on.
I wonder whose choice it is that this is 5 pages versus, you know, Hulk gets 2 and
Hulk-
X-Men and Avengers get 4.
Yeah, Hulk
you
was
know.
Hulk was nothing. Like the X books were still everything, and Wolverine was. If the X-Men cartoon's still going on, like, you know, X-Men was as popular as they ever were here.
Get your montage of kill them all. It's funny. It's you know, several of these we've seen the kills on screen, but they're still here.
Very Bagley-ish.
These dudes that have been like damaged by the superheroes, there's a certain look to them that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what these injuries are. Like there's like
It looks like
it's like his skin's peeling off.
Yeah,
in
it looks
places.
like a terrible burn. You know what that part reminds me of is the Red Dragon, I think, the prequel to Silence of the Lambs, where it's like the victims of Hannibal Lecter. There's like a super rich guy who eventually gets like fed to the pigs or whatever. He's that guy. He's a super rich dude that's like mangled from a previous encounter, wants revenge. Like that's sort of the basis for this.
I also think this spread is probably trimmed wrong or printed wrong. It looks too small. You know, like if you look on previous pages where your margins are, that's probably where this margin should be.
Right.
And it's not, and you can see like there's a lot of fill in where there's just no line art or anything going off there. So
And you don't see no Punisher. Like it's like you can't center spread that.
no, you can't. You can't put it right in the middle axis.
Yeah.
And keeps getting arrested, which I guess kind of makes sense. Although it wouldn't surprise me if you're getting shot up by the police at some point. Like, what kind of arrest are you doing where you're killing the heroes of the world and then you're going peacefully when the cops show up?
Right. Yeah. Like if they're gonna like stomp on your head for killing a cop or something, the superheroes are like the next level.
Ennis also does a pretty good job of like, now you're a disgrace. You know, these like Captain America laying it on pretty thick to Frank Castle, who's avenging his family. Wolverine kind of did the same thing. You killed my friends.
Yeah.
He's like, you killed my family.
Right.
You know, it's. I think it's the mark of good writing on Ennis's part that you're seeing both sides of these guys going after each other.
The only way to go, like, you know, it's empathy, and like guys like, you know, Aaron Sorkin, they're like, you don't have to agree with Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men or whatever, but you have to come up with the argument to God why Jack Nicholson will do what he did at the wall.
All right, man, here we go. Daredevil's all that's left standing, and well, maybe his support team also left standing, and this is where their disagreements come to a head.
And I think they're probably pretty easy to dispatch.
I was going to say, you've just seen Punisher kill all the superheroes in the Marvel Universe, and you think you're going to take him on?
Right, and especially, like...
Not the smartest.
Don't they say, like, you actually don't want to close the one eye when you are aiming a sight?
Nah, you look through one eye.
You do?
Yeah.
I guess it's just in movies where they're like, oh, quit closing your eye.
And now our final showdown.
See, you're seeing age with his hair. That shows you the time change.
It's a good note, because otherwise I don't get a sense of time passing. I know they say it a few times.
Right.
I don't know how you would show that exactly, but it feels like that's a bit of a dropped opportunity somewhere that doesn't come through like this is his life work. It feels like this happens pretty quick as a read.
And I think visually you could do it. You would have to go Gibbons about it, man, and come up with like these different looks. You know who else could do it? The Steve Dillon face. Like, say what you will about like same face syndrome, whatever. You could tell that Steve Dillon drew those faces, but those faces are all different and all do have a unique feature. And when he's doing more aged versions of a character, there will be more lines on the face, and it clearly reads. But this, you see the little Polly Walnuts gimmicks.
Yeah, I think you could do it too with having more physical tools on Punisher. Have him miss an arm or fingers.
Sure,
or,
get extra.
Taped up, limping, whatever it is.
You're right.
Maybe more body armor, all this stuff. Like, I think there are ways that you could have progressed him through this, almost Dark Knight-esque.
Kayfabers, we got you guys doing your Death of Superman comics, but I think we might have a contender for 2027.
Boy, the early computer coloring pulls me so hard. Like, looking at stuff like these simple gradations, it would have been like from Photoshop 1 and Corel Draw, whatever they were using at the time in 95.
Yeah.
Like, you can see kind of the simple tools that were available. It's a funny time period as everybody goes digital. And Daredevil trying through the end to be Daredevil, and cost him his life. You killed us all. No, Matt. There's one more to go. And there's your Garth Ennis killing Punisher for the first time.
Right. Does he have a little white head on his chin? Is that what that is?
I don't know what that is. That's so funny.
I always loved, it was the cover of the Dan Pussy collections where Klaus would draw, it would just be a red circle on Dan Pussy's face that he would leave white in the middle. And it was the perfect, like, whitehead zit drawing that you could ever see, like, because it's so simple, just a red circle, leave the white, and it's so disgusting.
This was way more enjoyable than I expected it to be.
First time I ever read it.
Me too.
I'm a Garth Ennis mark. It's the art that I like holistic comics. Like it's tough for me to read a job comic from the assembly line in general now. Like, I'm just past that. I like to read comics that a person makes rather than a team or a committee. But even at this point, I was kind of done on that kind of stuff. I would give you a chance if you had strength at all of the visible metrics, measuring sticks. Frickin' art, if that looked cool, I'll give it a shot. But this art is just, it's too boilerplate to me.
It's pretty solid. This was a time I was done, though, just overall. Like, 95 comics were so bad looking. And I talk about the computer color. That's one component. There were people aping the image stuff.
Yeah.
There was just... It's kind of a low point for me as a fan. And I think this stuff's pretty serviceable. I was pleasantly surprised by it.
It's worth $0.25 or whatever. It's worth $1.
Yeah, so, good read. Had fun.
I look forward to, we got to do the Detective Soap 12-issue Ennis and Dillon Punisher miniseries, man.
Yeah, that's one that I wasn't around. Jimmy Palmiotti, I think, on the inks on that.
Yeah, and it's okay, but
that might have been Axel Alonso at that point.
It was, but it's also like, man, so that's what I like about Steve Dillon on Preacher. Like, he needs to do it all, because, that didn't work. And also Clem Robbins on color.
Yeah.
He colors Steve Dillon perfectly, and then the Marvel hyperbolic color. There's problems, no doubt, but it's a good comic. You good to go?
Yeah.
Kayfabers, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make, but we also have a Patreon. Hit the link in the description below. King Kayfabers are watching us record these videos live. They get the videos before anybody else. That mitigates the kayfabe effect, but the vids are brought to you by the books that we make. So, Jimmy, tell the people what you have.
Street Angel, Princess of Poverty. This is my next release from Image Comics. It will collect all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Live, which has just come back into print from Image Comics. So pick this one up now, pre-order Princess of Poverty from your local comic shop, and pick up my other books, Hulk, Grand Design, and The Plain Janes, also available. And you can join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can read my latest comics that I have started serializing there.
Getting this note from the chat room, they said... Alfred Comics said that Ennis refused to do some work for Marvel for a while. because editorial changed some of his dialogue in this comic without his input. It wasn't until Quesada came into the fore that Ennis came back. So thank you, Alfred Comic, in the chat room for that. Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus is coming out 2023, collecting the 4 existing volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree. And if you have those existing 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree, you're going to want to scoop up this book for the 140 pages of extra goodies contained therein. Order it at your comic shop, pre-order online, whatever is convenient for you. But Red Room is starting up again in May. This is the cover to issue 1, Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit, banned in 26 countries, banned in 11 comic shops. Going to be coming out on a monthly basis, each story completely self-contained. Support the comic where you see it. There are 2 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree trade paperbacks out there right now. Scoop those up. 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design and WYSIWYG. What else do we have going on, Jimmy?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, and more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
Great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Given those marching orders, will be on our way.
Read more comics. That's interesting, the dialogue change. Makes me wonder, like, what was changed in there.
Right.
What did they go after?
Trying to sneak arson.
It's probably the X-Men stuff we're talking about. Little continuities.
Very impressive. Very impressive art on this comic. Can you move the comic? I can't see the square. Oh, I see it. Ready when you are, Jimmy. We let the people know what we're looking at.
Oh yeah, Batman 393, 394. These are well, we'll say it in the video, but they're 86. They're shortly. This is the same year as Batman Year One will begin here within a year.
Based on the demographic data on this channel, when we get out of here, we have to look at this back cover, and I have to talk this back cover just a little bit. 5 seconds.
I don't know if I had that, but I definitely played with this. Like, it might have been one that my cousins or somebody had, if not me.
Nothing could stop the animal. You remember the commercial?
I don't remember it. That's amazing.
The animal. Nothing could stop the animal.
You're blowing it, Ed. That needs to be. You're gonna have to redo that. So that I hope you enjoy. Warm up the lungs.
I was there, dude. Cause like I actually like my first Batman comic is the Magpie shit, like in the 400s. So like I'm 5 years old and like getting Batman comics on a regular basis all the way up to fucking Batman getting his back broken. Almost every issue. Good to go?
Hit it. Hello and welcome to YouTube's favorite comic book channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
Before we begin, I want to remind everybody that we have a Cartoonist Kayfabe Patreon now up and running. 3 different levels there will get you access to our videos before anybody else, give you a leg up on the Kayfabe effect. And if you're a King Kayfaber, that top level you're actually sitting in right now, listening to us record, maybe filling in details that we miss. So we welcome you to look at that Patreon and see what level fits you. We are also working Cartoonist. You see our bibliography here on the screen right now. The best way to support Cartoonist Kayfabe is to buy our books. Ed Piscor's Red Room coming up on the start of Season 3. Crypto Killers. You can see the cover here for issue number 1 will be in your shops very soon. Subscribe to that one immediately if you haven't done so already. Hip Hop Family Tree, the Omnibus, collecting all of the Hip Hop Family Tree comics plus 140 extra pages. This one will be out later this year. It's going to be the perfect gift this Christmas season. Oversized, gold foil cover. This is going to be beautiful. So pre-order that one if you haven't already. His other books include WYSIWYG, Hip Hop Family Tree still available in Treasury oversized editions, 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design, and an omnibus of X-Men Grand Design. So pick those up along with the first 2 volumes of Red Room if you haven't already. My next book, Street Angel Princess of Poverty, up for pre-order now from Image Comics, featuring the homeless ninja on a skateboard and collecting all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, recently brought back into print from Image Comics. Get both books, you'll have the complete Street Angel series. My other recent books include Hulk Grand Design and The Plain Janes. So today we're going to look at Paul Gulacy's early Batman comics, issues 393 and 394 of Batman. This is from early 1986. I thought these were much older.
Yeah.
I've been looking at a bunch of Paul Galassi lately. I saw a couple of panels from this run, picked them up at the recent Ides sale. Super happy to add those. Had no idea they were 1986. I thought this might have been from the 70s, you know. In my mind, this was right after Masters of Kung Fu. Paul Galassi and Doug Mensch went over to Batman.
Right.
I was wrong.
Such an iconic cover to me.
Great coloring.
I've seen that reprinted a lot of times, and it's so evocative. You know, that's the kind of cover that you want on your book, man. Batman looking pretty freaking cool. Definitely the highlight figure. It has all of the hallmarks of like good design, where there's a hierarchy of stuff that you're looking at. You know, like yellow is a cheat tool, you know, to like sell you on focal point. So you want to see Batman, and you see that there's concern on his face, and then the secondary places those cool blues, you know, and then you realize like, okay, he's got a lot of blades sticking at him. He's framed by them. It's a fantastic piece of comic book art, and very well designed. The second one is a pretty boilerplate comic book cover.
Yeah, very I hate to say uninspired, but you look at these two covers, and one of them I think is really strong, and one of them isn't.
Yeah, it's more sort of an average comic book cover, but such a pleasure. The first time I looked at these comics, first time I ever read these, I start checking out Batman. Like, I'm gonna be 5 years old in 86 at some point, I think, born in 82, 4, close to 5. The Magpie issue, which is like 401, something like that, is my first Batman comic, and I pretty much read that through until Batman gets his back broken, almost on a consistent basis. Get a new copy every single month, with like little spurts here and there if something was really popped that I didn't get to the grocery store early enough. But Batman had such a sweet spot in my heart growing up, and this is just before my time.
Well, me too, but make up for lost time here. This is also Galassi had taken a tour away from comics, doing advertising art, and it feels like all of his this is peak Galassi to me. This it seems like all of his tools are at his disposal here. I'm glad to see like he's inking himself, which helps. And Mensch, a guy that he worked with quite a bit. I think they had a good working relationship, and let's just dive in, man, because this is mostly an art appreciation book for me.
That's what it is, like Mensch is whatever. Like first of all, he sticks on the book for a long time. The cool thing about Mensch on this, you can keep going. You
know what's noteworthy to me is Shades of Watchmen already, which is another book that's going to be coming out in this time period, 1986.
I feel like this
Cold War was just dominant.
Yeah, I feel like this story is it could have been a Masters of Kung Fu story. There's all that kind of cloak and dagger and double triple agent stuff that has kind of always existed. But this is freaking Paul Galassi. Look at that 2-page spread.
Gorgeous.
Pulling out all the stops, like doing that like no holding lines kind of shading. Like that takes a lot of time. It's much harder to do this than draw the full square and draw the circle inside and stuff. To do the shading, like, because you have to be considerate of all of that. And it just looks like he's really like auditioning. It's a contract a year for Galassi or something, and he's pulling out all the stops. Also, Doug Mensch, with maybe Len Wein as editor, is boiling down his writing. You read an issue of Masters of Kung Fu, you're getting some verbiage on the pages. That is a no-go at DC Comics at this stage. And Mensch is boiling down his dialogue to fit this, to make it a more pleasurable read. Because, to be honest, the Masters of Kung Fu stuff, not that fun to read, man.
My big disappointment in this book, the first scene takes place in Venice, and I was so excited. I went there last year and loved it. One of my favorite things I've ever seen. And not a lot of Venice. I feel like he got a couple of clips from a National Geographic for these background buildings. They look super cool, but it's not the sense of Venice that I was hoping for. But it is this Cold War espionage tale of like spies, and I mentioned the Watchmen Cold War on page 1. He is teaming up with a Russian agent, so that's what we have. The stakes here are plutonium being smuggled into the country to create basically a nuclear attack.
Yeah. This page, bad storytelling, because like you're supposed to read it like this, then this.
Vertical's always a struggle.
And I think he could have solved that if this black wasn't there. Like if this is all gutter and these were totally butted up next to each other, further away from these.
You can do that. A bigger gutter would have helped.
Yeah, because I'm reading this and then I'm reading this, because it feels like it makes sense. It's the same color combos and stuff, but that's not the way that you read it. Because if you do, it's real silly. It's like there's extra time. It's like here's the knife. He's looking and then bats it. Because like
it would have been hilarious if that was the order, because the knife would be coming in like right here.
right, yeah, totally. And you know what, that might have saved it, like, you know, stop time, like that Jiro Taniguchi fucking Bullet comic. Because the other thing that makes it not work is the same size character where it looks like 1 second then the next. So he fucked this page up in terms of storytelling.
Look at this. You put something in the foreground, in this case a spider web. I've seen people do like over the, you know, if there's a chandelier or something like that, to create that depth from a top angle.
Instant depth.
And the shading, though, he's so strong in kind of like these moments. Like this feels like the cinematic peak of a lot of Galasi's work too, where it's just like cool image after cool image. It makes for a really fun book to look at and look at again and again.
I wonder if he's talking to Mensch and is like, I want to make this kind of story, because like, wouldn't you have liked to have seen him do like Two-Face or Joker or somebody? You got this like Dark Rider guy who's just like the Spirit or something.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. I actually thought of this as almost like their tryout book for the James Bond book that they ultimately did.
Who needs to try out for that, man? Like Little Man on the Totem Pole's getting movie adaptations and shit.
That pre-generation, I feel like that was a high point. And I don't know if there were Bond comics floating around. Like they might have been pitching, but it just felt like that international thing. Like if they would have had their choice at this time, I think that's what they would have picked.
I think it's their interest. You know, it's the stories that they were building with Masters of Kung Fu. This is a Masters of Kung Fu story.
Totally. And the espionage starts with this sculpture that's they're trying to smuggle in this Dark Rider.
This is romantic to me. Like I always, you know, like there was in our lifetime, like not too long ago, there was like an Edward Munch. Like I think the Scream got stolen. Got stolen from a museum in some big heist, and then there will be all these articles about these black market art auctions and shit. And to me, it's like the ultimate Groucho Marx, like, don't want to be a member of a group that would have me type shit. Like, so sexy. The idea that there are these, like, you know, Elon Musk and fucking, you know, some oil chic and shit like that, or like in this room bidding on artwork that they can never show off to anybody for a couple of generations or something. You know, like, because it exists. Like when those
post World War II, like all that stolen artwork has gone through that. Now and then one will surface, and then it's like trace it back to the family it was stolen from.
That stuff's a big controversy, and it's just much different than like some Ocean's 11 stuff. Like, you know, 5 years ago, somebody stealing Edward Munch and putting a kayfabe one up, and like people not noticing for a little while. And doing something like selling it, you know, they're not just like holding on to it for a couple of generations. There are people who are buying it, and it's like, what is that? What is that world? I'm so fascinated. If there are any documentaries or books about that, like, let me know, because that's something. This is hitting a sweet spot for me.
I'm very curious about that too, because in my mind that can't really exist.
Right.
And if it does, I would be curious about that. Carl Stevens works at that museum in Boston or wherever, where like the biggest art heist of all time was, and there are podcasts on it where like none of that stuff has surfaced. They've never tracked down one piece of stolen art or anybody that they think did it, you know. And I mean, it's so much money. Like, you know, people have been working on that round the clock pretty much, and it's just like it disappeared. It just went into somebody's secret archives, and it is secret. So I don't know if you can auction this stuff off or not, but if so, yeah, I'd be curious to hear more about that as well.
Yeah, because wouldn't the guy who loses that really wanted Edward Munch's The Scream, wouldn't he be a bitch and be like, you know what, I was at this auction and fucking Elon Musk, that douchebag outbid me on this Van Gogh that I wanted.
Yeah, he might. He might not. He might turn him in. How great Batman is going to bid $5 million for this thing. They're all doing up to $1 million, and as soon as he does, they're like, "Nyet."
They're taking it right off the market.
Over.
Yeah, because they're kayfabe, and they're setting it up so that a specific guy gets it, because they want to put it's a Trojan horse. They want to put the bounty into the hands of some guy.
It's almost math the way he composes stuff.
Yeah,
you know, like all these characters in the different planes with Batman in the middle. Galasi's kind of unequaled in certain ways with this. I look at a lot of this stuff and I think about Steranko, one of Galasi's primary influences. I kind of think Galasi's better at straight comics than Steranko when I look at certain of his works.
Here's what he's bringing to the table, especially in a story like this also. This was Steranko's built in, of course, but the strip work of Al Williamson on Secret Agent X9 and things.
Yeah,
I think they are using the same materials, which would be a lot of projection and tracing for those backgrounds and stuff.
Another great piece of like the super foreground object. You know,
Yeah.
put this hand in with a gun, and now you've got all like another layer. You've created 30 more feet of depth right there.
Totally. And like the big secret of this kind of stuff, you know, when you're coming up and you're trying to figure stuff out and learn how to draw and all this, like he fully cribbed that. I'm certain of it because it's so accurate and so perfect. And you can do that, you know, like when Wally Wood's talking about like don't draw what you can trace kind of stuff, what these guys will do is create a basic kind of collage of all kinds of found resources.
Yeah, that car,
you know,
the background street.
Yeah, and then you turn it into a Paul Gulacy piece of art. That is the art of it. And that is where things are divorced now, like with modern comics, with the tracing of stuff, where it's so pixel perfect and all that, and it's so stiff and rigid. They're skipping this step of turning it into their own art style.
And you can find examples of this stuff throughout illustration history. Like that's always been illustration.
Yeah.
You know, finding reference and then folding that in one way or the other.
Yeah, there's no reason to, on a monthly comic, to sit down and figure all of that shit out.
The amount of detail he puts into these shadows, like the little folds in the coats and stuff, man, I eat it up. Again, this is, I think, a certain peak of Gulacy. You know, depending on what your love of Gulacy is, like there's a version of this that's the peak.
The color is showing up in the proper way. I wonder if he's given notes to the colorist, because there's so much smart stuff happening. The red in the background to kind of offset the blue.
And I mentioned, you know, like some of the design choices here. You see this headlight in the first tier, the second tier, and the moon in your third tier to keep that circle motif going through.
Yeah, you know what's real important with the circle motif is you have to break it. The circle is such a strong shape that if you have too much of the circle, from a distance you stare at it, so you have to put stuff in front of it.
They even extended into the circle design of your helicopter that they're going to then take. I love that. The blue and the yellow, simple colors, man, it looks good. And part of it's this paper. If this were on a coated paper, it would read a little different.
Yes, and the version I saw had more of like a blue liney kind of color, and it's not this, you know. This makes it sing. Uh-oh. The editor ain't paying attention to Duck Punch. He's going ham.
Yeah, that's a lot of. This is almost like you're borrowing. It's like word debt. We're gonna have to have a wordless sequence to offset this. Make sure the number of words makes it out in time. Oh man, knife in the back again. So good at depth with no real. This isn't really perspective, but
no,
it's a
total
trick.
Fake. Yeah,
it's a great trick for adding that kind of depth, and. It does feel like these guys just wanted to have some fun. Like now here we are in the
Alps or something.
Yeah, which is absurd. Anytime Batman's in daylight, walking around like a bunch of skiers in their parkas, and Batman's like on day 3 of no shower.
They're used to seeing it too, man, because like, you know, that's where, you know, famous actors will go to for winter break or something.
They do this one great trick here though, where they're like leaving him, you know, in the middle here, and he's like, this bright snow does hamper my camouflage. I'm built for the night. And everybody's like, well then perhaps, where did he go?
Yes.
Got to give him his props for this stuff.
Great spread here. The panel with the binoculars, when he's doing a kayfabe fight with this dude who turns out to be CIA, and while they're fighting, see, this feels very 007, doesn't it? Like a set piece where they're fighting and the guy's like, listen, make it look good. They're watching us. And after he says that, you see the binocular panels to further sell that. The unevenness of the snow silhouette on you know, the mounds of snow there. That's uneven and really cool. That's great observation.
It's such good shadow work. It's that noir that man, he's so good with that. And he's good at several things, so it's easy to have these things be like the fourth thing that he's great at.
Yeah.
It really ties together well here.
It's so tight a comic that I'm quite sure that they were working on it much longer than
I think so.
The average job guys.
That or else he just did not sleep for a month.
Yeah, like there's precedent, you know, like Jean Day is a cautionary tale.
Oh yeah, it's not what you should do. I love the coloring on this sequence and into this page. Look at that red sky, just flat red.
Yeah.
So striking with all the cool blues and everything and the rest of it. And Batman's head being chopped off. One of the great splash pages. Like, what a great, you know, if you're reading this, yeah, it's a dream sequence, but at the same time, it's Batman's head being cut off.
Right, like in a way,
flipping through the air. How's this get by the comics code?
In a way, I mean, that should have been the splash. Like
yes.
you could start the comic right on that page. A big part of like those writing workshops that we participated in was like cut off anything that you don't exactly need. And to me, that's you open a comic and you see that, it's like, how do you not read that?
Yeah, it would have been killer. No doubt about it. And now we've got Robin showing up. And Robin's a really strange fit in this world of shadows and espionage. And Robin's like...
And Paul Galassi artwork. Because, I mean, it looks like, it's a nubile little twink in a little costume. And it's very exceptionally gay.
Very weird. And our Russian agent is loving being put up in style here in America in this deluxe suite. But then when Batman shows up, she can't give him any credit and is like, oh, trying to bribe me to come over to the American side.
What a bitch to draw.
Yes.
Like, chandeliers freaking suck to draw, man.
Ugh.
But that's probably the best one I've ever seen drawn in comics.
Yeah. His attention to all the details really well done. You're going to get 2 pages here in this penthouse suite, and it's like, yeah, you got to kind of put in the work.
Yeah, and it's all like, it all looks lavishly expensive. Like one of the things with bougie furniture, no hard edges, all soft edges. He does that in the artwork. I do think he's doing some of his own business here, because like the perspective looks way off.
It does look strange. I was looking at that seems questionable, but he's still putting in these kinds of panels that are just attention grabbing on the page. Look at the attention even to the ceiling, as this is not a cheap room.
This is one of those pieces where I feel like the conceit, like this panel was built based on the reference he had, because like that is so clearly modeled out, like it's somebody, so like he made. And it's actually it's a strike against like the reference user, where like the reference is dictating your compositions and shit. And I feel like this is the strongest piece of this panel, and it's so well referenced that like he had to make it all work around this cool photo he had or something.
I got no regrets on that page. Good again with the colorist. We're switching scenes. It's still nighttime. Could be tricky. No problem. Bring in some colors that weren't in our previous night scene. And down to the docks. It's such a cliche of these kinds of movies.
Oh, totally.
Another one of those perspective tricks of create depth without the real use of perspective. You're just basically, you've got a vertical panel here to fill of this guy running and her behind it. However the figures fit.
I mean, it makes no argument. Like it's sound. Like the vanishing point is here. So the fun part about having the vanishing point on the horizon line is you can draw a fucking shoe this big. You have this guy, you have that girl. It is accurate.
I love the cartoon building too. Like there's such a history of this going back into even like the Dick Tracy's or the undergrounds of like what the shorthand of a city building is. And that's it. It's a rectangle with some squares for windows.
What's funny is like, it's almost like the way computer sort of fidelity has increased and stuff, like where like the Golden Age one would have like 3 big windows. Mm-hmm. And then like as time goes by, maybe you put some more. But Galassi's here, and then like there'll be like the Eric Larson one that has even more windows per inch. That's how you gauge it.
I love this use of just they're buildings, but there's just a geometric black background. It's almost like you could have done that with no background and just made it black or whatever. But you add the buildings just to kind of like sell that scene. It's a great panel.
Yeah, it's another one that's posed out, and then the background is kind of like figure that out later. You could tell those ones for sure. Let's destroy our storytelling with something that looks like it's part of the comic.
Yeah, funny. Talking head scene as we're trying to figure out how do we save the day. And look at the Robin mask with eyebrows.
Yeah.
Just touching. Like the mask doesn't quite fit right.
Mignola will lean into that, I think. Like his covers for the head bashing Joker Batman Robin comics. That looks like that Robin.
It looks really good here. No eyebrows. Sans eyebrows. But the eyebrows, that almost feels like something you'd see in Brat Pack. Some kind of reconsideration of these superheroes. Good face there. That's pretty cartoony.
The comedian.
Man, and I love it going from like the fluorescent office back into the shadows of the night. It does so good with those shadows.
Oh, he's built for that.
Yeah, completely.
I love doing these kayfabe things of ductwork and pipes, because it's very simple. It's like a trick that you can learn real easy if you look at the John Byrne, Terry Austin X-Men comics, where you just kind of grid it off and you don't even have to pencil it really. You just follow the grid and just like make shapes, and here are like these 3-4 textures. So a lot of that in Red Room.
I wish this spread was a little bit. I don't love this page as much, but I love seeing like these kind of small panels of just detailed figure work. Like, man, there's so much drawing on these 2 pages.
Yeah, like stuff like that. That is
Beautiful.
super tough to compose, man. Because now he's playing with 3-point perspective, and you got to get that character in the distance, and it all looks good.
This kind of stuff too, like it's a photorealistic style, I would say, that he's employing
Oh
for this
yeah,
story.
for sure.
And then to have figures running, it can be really hard to do that in a way that keeps that kind of realistic style going.
Yeah, you gotta make that stuff your own, because a running pose is very underwhelming when you photograph it, even at the apex moments. Unless you're Usain Bolt or something, it doesn't look that heroic. Or
Look at how much detail he's packing into one panel, where we've got essentially 5 figures here, you know, and you go all the way back and it's Batman and his enemy in silhouette, but it's still 5 figures in this one little tiny, you know, 9th size panel.
He is a storytelling dynamo.
Love this too, of breaking this tier of panels.
Yeah.
Good use of an open panel, as Bill Griffiths would say. Did you know he's doing a Ernie Bushmiller biography graphic novel right now?
No.
That guy's unbelievable.
Yeah. Doing more work in age 70 than he did when he was, 30.
Yeah, really wild. Love this as a center piece. And you know what, man? I remember Cable and Extinction Agenda, Jim Lee X-Men kicking down the door in the Danger Room. Looked a lot like that pose.
We were talking about, like, that's something, it comes up in comics a lot. And there are many examples, like the zine of that would be
That'd be a great zine.
Something to behold, because I've been tasked with it 3-4 times.
Yeah, and there's not a lot you can do. It's kind of like, this is the angle.
In the the second issue of Crypto Killers that's coming out, man, like, it sort of ends with the cops coming in, and the way most people play it, because Galecki's bound by his style here. So you can't get Looney Tunes with it. But, like, personally, I like when those fucking doors kind of, like a piece of paper, kind of curve and bend out to kind of sell you on the impact motion. But if Galecki would have done that, it would have looked uncanny valley or something.
There's a really good one in that Gorilla storyboard video of a door being kicked off, but it is definitely the cartoony version where that door is flexing and stuff as it gets kicked off.
It's just the easiest. Hinges. Yeah, it's just the easiest way to do it. The ending of this story is ridiculous, because like the idea is that inside the Trojan horse is like liquid plutonium.
That's right. Great panel.
Like, everybody in this comic is dying. Like, like you know how it's like. If you follow a story along, you gotta stories with happy endings just know where to cut it. That's kind of this story, cause like everybody is fucking toast. This guy doused himself in liquid plutonium, and he's acting like it's all right. And this chick ain't running fucking for the hills. No, he's touching all over her. He's touching all over Batman.
Yeah, his plan is to jump into the reservoir covered in this liquid and then contaminate all of Gotham City's people, I guess. I love this panel, but yeah, you're right. Story-wise, this is ludicrous. Here's another one of those good 2-page spreads. Anytime like you get 2 pages of him doing like this action fight scenes, they're really badass.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
Is 2 pages that you're looking at and it's just filling your vision. What an accomplishment.
It's another example of like the writing just has not caught up to the artwork in comics, and really hasn't, except for like very exceptional works, because this is little kid shit. This is an Inspector Gadget story, with this kind of artwork. So the divorce between words and pictures is pretty far off.
One of the really tough things with superhero comics, and especially from pre-2000 or whatever, but it always feels like there's just conceits there that they can't overcome that young reader, whatever it is. But to your point of the liquid plutonium, splatters are just coming off as they're fighting. I mean, like she's got to be covered in this.
She better never get pregnant. Maybe this is the Nuke Face origin comic, man.
Now we make the announcement of don't drink your water. Scary, because I feel like how many cities have had this announcement in the last couple of years. That's what I'm saying, man. It feels like that goes around quite a bit. But Alfred, got to get Alfred in here, right? If you're going to do a Batman comic.
And more splatters, like just doused. If you did this comic, wouldn't you like start to fucking make him sizzle a little bit and get kind of bubbly and shit? Like, because it's very meager. You have his hair falling out, have his teeth falling out. It's like that like Nuke Face. Whenever he Nukeface has that hillbilly like drink some stuff in every panel. Something new happens to him, like a tooth falls out, an eyeball comes out, his speech pattern starts to fuck. Every panel, something new happens before the guy just like
there was
bubbles
some
away.
grotesque stuff in that Chernobyl. There was an HBO show, Chernobyl, that was kind of a horror, practically like a horror show.
To this day,
and there was some dark stuff with that.
Yeah, to this day, kids are born with like weird heart conditions. There.
This is so now we've got like a chase scene going, and basically it's a race to the reservoir. So it's kind of interesting to see like how do you speed up a style like this,
right?
And there's some cross cutting. The cops are racing there, so. You're trying to do this cinematically, and look how close it is.
Yeah, he's getting close. They throw, they're cowboys.
Yeah, man, you aim high, Batman aims low.
And there it is, did right before.
Look at this drawing closely. I love it. This is like, how do you do foreshortening comic book kind of stuff, but also in this photorealistic style that seems like it would prevent that? Because there's some real morphing going on with this arm. And to me, it works. Like you're creating different planes and almost motion. Like we're seeing this hand at a different moment than we're seeing this part of Batman.
Yeah, it's true. And like, he does his own kind of, like, the lighting on this is weird. Like that would have been lit probably. But, Galassi does his thing. Also these angles too.
Yeah, whenever the reference breaks down, sometimes you'll see some really creative drawing. Like this is not something that he had foreshortened photo reference for.
Yeah, totally. And that's also the thing that lets you know that like this dude, for all the stuff we talk about photos, that is not pejorative. The guy can freaking draw.
That's the thing. I like this stuff. This is the distortions that I like in figure drawing and superhero comics.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like now you're seeing the imagination of Galassi on how do you distort, how do you actually do some foreshortening here, but drops him just inches. It looks like his fingertips are over the edge, which, for composition, got to show us the edge with this black shadow so that we know he is just right there. Could almost pull himself over there. And this is your last page, and you got to imagine like Batman and they're going to spend the night together, right? Before she heads back to Mother Russia.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
So much tension in here, but for the kids at home, how about if Batman just puts his arm around Gordon and Robin and they go have a boys' night out? Let's have a couple drinks, fellas.
So all these people, man, are contaminated, except for these smart ones here.
There are puddles of plutonium that they're essentially standing over. Just vapors just coming right in. Probably ruining their film as well.
Yeah, right. Oh, dude, look at that, man. What do we got here? We got circulation numbers?
Holy cow, dude. Average numbers of copies each issue during preceding 12 months. Take a guess.
That's low. I seen it.
75,000.
That's not a lot.
Wow. No, it's not a lot at all. Like when we talked to Rob Liefeld about New Mutants being like becoming direct market only, I think Marvel's cutoff was between 90,000 and 110,000 copies. And that would have been in the late 80s. This is 86 and Batman is struggling. 75,000.
That's there are other numbers here and it just can't be right. That has to be something very specific.
So average number of copies, this is your net press run. This is your total printed copies, 195,000.
That has to be per issue.
Yeah. That's your average per issue, 195,000.
Okay.
But I mean, like these are way below like the Hulk numbers that I print.
Sure.
Hulk
Yeah.
Design.
Marvel was eating their lunch.
They really were, man. This is Batman.
Yeah.
Under 200,000 copies net.
Probably
and under 100,000 copies sold.
Yeah. Wow. And it's probably the top tier book at the time.
That's true. Like imagine
everything else is 20, 30,000, which is very curious because I mean we find those old comics. You could find cool Teen Titans and stuff like that for in the dollar bins.
This says the actual number of copies of single issue published nearest to this filing date, 164,000. They're plummeting.
Yeah, that's pretty weak.
Like from your average of 195,000 over the last 12 issues. The most recent's at 164,000, which probably means the one that's 12 issues ago is probably 225,000. That's 2023 numbers for the best of those big comics. That's wild. I can't believe those numbers were so low and I missed it. So Bigfoot was my life.
Yeah.
And probably a couple years before this, Bigfoot would have been my life. Like, my 5 or 6 years old, this was the thing.
Well, flip it, because this is my thing, dude. The animal.
I remember this one too.
The frickin' toy monster truck.
Perfect.
That and you got to set the time because there were always commercials for like the latest greatest radio cars, like remote control cars. Like that was a big deal, but only one that had fucking animal claws.
Yeah, these things would come out and there were 3 per wheel.
Yes.
Which imagine triangles instead of circles for wheels.
Because it was also plastic, so it's not even rubber. And the idea was that you're supposed to be able to overcome certain terrain. And what would happen is it would just topple backwards. But the commercial, the animal, the animal, nothing could stop the animal. Like burned into my brain from
That's
age
great.
5. You know, like the advertising worked on me. I did not have it. I never had one remote control car. Them shits were expensive. They were $100 back then. I
would always see them at Radio Shack. Would be like the high end remote control cars.
Those are the ones that you would see adults with, and they would even take gas. Those things, man, they would be gas powered and go way faster. But like, there would be the whole aisle at Kmart and stuff, and my folks were just like, "Don't even look at that shit. You're like, don't even. You're never getting one of those." And then you would get those for your aunt or something on Christmas. Will get you those like $10 ones that has a wire to the control. You remember that shit?
Yeah, I have those.
What do? You gotta like walk with it, and it goes an inch per second or something.
That's amazing. This I saw monster trucks about this time, and it was like Bigfoot and USA 1 at the Civic Arena.
Yes, I used to go to all the time. I have photos inside a tire of OG Bigfoot that is like a pickup truck with big ass tires. Like I have photos with that one, like in the big tire. Like these ones, I like what is that chassis? It's like custom or something. But like the OG Bigfoot was a fucking pickup truck.
Yeah, it was a Ford
that just had giant ass tires, and I was 4 years old going to see that thing.
They used to be so like I watched a documentary on them from that time period recently, and like they would crush the cars and they would drive so slow because the suspensions weren't really built for what they were doing. So it would just be like, and then stop on the cars and then drive off. And it was like, yeah, it's the greatest thing ever.
We're showing off our Pennsylvania-ness, man.
I love these, though, man. I had a great time with those. Like I said, I've been on a Paul Galassi kick, and I think these are really top-notch Galassi.
Yeah, great comics. So happy to read them. So yeah, actually look into the cover of that first one. Like it's one of those rare instances where the interiors, like the cover, and the interiors kind of line up.
It's so good to have an artist that does both.
Yes.
Because if you love this cover, you're in business, man. Pick it up, open it up, enjoy yourself. The other Galassi Batman that we may want to look at some point is the Legends of the Dark Knight Prey storyline, which I have, but I if I read it, it was years ago. Whenever I got it, that story is a sequel to Batman Year One, so like they mimic the captioning, lettering styles, and everything like that. I think that's a cool gimmick, but I don't know how good that comic is because I don't hear many people talk about it, and you'd think if you did a decent Batman Year One sequel,
right?
It would. I just found out it was a sequel to Batman Year One within the last year, so you'd think that'd be pretty knowledgeable if that were done well.
There's periods of Galassi. In that later period, the fastball, he ain't Nolan Ryan. Good to go?
Yep.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. King Kayfabers at our Patreon are watching us stream this recording session live. And they're getting the cheapest copies of these Batman comics that we're talking about on the aftermarket right this very moment. They're getting all the videos delivered to them before everybody else. But Cartoonist Kayfabe is brought to you by the books that we make. So, Jimmy, tell the people what you have out there, dude.
My latest book releases are Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive. My next book release is Street Angel Princess of Poverty. This is the cover to that. It'll be coming out early summer and collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Deadliest Girl Alive, going back to the very first Street Angel comics 20 years ago. So it's been out of print for a while. There's also some comics that have never been printed that'll be in this collection. So pre-order that one now. And also join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where I'm serializing some more new comics there for the first time. Not sure where those are going to end up or when you'll see them other places. So hit me up on Patreon if you want to keep up with my latest and greatest.
Oh yeah, this is the end video, not the beginning video. Cut that for me, man. Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus coming out later this year, man. Collecting all of the existing Hip Hop Family Tree comics, the big 4-volume set. But there is 140 pages of additional material that is collected inside of this omnibus. 504-page book in total. Big enough to stun a burglar, as No Gaiman says, man. Scoop it up, support the comic. Thank you very much. Red Room is starting up in May on a monthly basis. Crypto Killers 1 is going to hit the stores in May. Every story completely self-contained. It's the last Red Room miniseries, man. So save the best for last, for sure. There are 2 existing trade paperbacks of Red Room on the stands right now. There are 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design, and WYSIWYG is out there. Jimmy, what else do we have going on?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe e-newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, fanny packs, stickers, and lots more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
Great ways to support the channel. Give them those marching orders, and we'll be on our way.
Read more comics.
So my thought is like technology. This will be a quick one. It's a comparison of computer coloring over the 2 years or whatever. I do think that we have to show off that letter at the beginning of Wetworks to just talk about like the time that transpired a bit. Like I felt for that a lot. And just a quickie.
I meant to look up the ad. Do you remember the ad whenever this was finally coming out? And it's like 214 pen nibs and all that stuff. I love that ad so much, and I wanted to rattle it off, and I thought that'd be a great moment, and I didn't look it up.
It's all good.
But yeah, so
we'll want to show that triple gatefold.
Yeah. Okay.
We will be talking about. We're looking at Wetworks 1 and Wildcats number 2, which is the first kind of appearance of Wetworks. And yeah,
should have warned them for seizure effect before I flip that around.
I wonder, I never read. I read Wildcats 1 and that was plenty. Got all the stuff. I do wonder how the Dan Quayle thing pays off.
I was going. I flipped through all of this week, and I guess
yeah, cool, good if you are.
Yeah, hit it. Hello and welcome to YouTube's favorite comic book channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piskor.
Want to remind everybody out there that we have a Cartoonist Kayfabe Patreon set up now. 3 different levels to give access to our videos early, get a leg up on the Kayfabe effect. And at the top level, the King Kayfabers are actually sitting in on our recording session, sometimes giving us tidbits of useful information, but they are the first ones in line for these comics that we cover. So check out that Patreon, see what level works for you. The other best way to support us is buy our books. In front of you, you see our bibliographies. We are working Cartoonist. Ed Piskor has 2 volumes of Red Room, 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design, 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree, and coming out later this year, the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus, collecting all 4 of those volumes plus 140 additional pages. Pre-order this one now. This is going to be the book of the holiday season later this year, and by then it'll be too late to reprint. So you want to put your name on a copy now while you still can. Also starting up shortly is Red Room Season 3, Crypto Killers. You see the cover for issue number 1 here. You can subscribe to this at your local comic book shop. It'll be here before you know it. Has a lot of cool variant covers as well from me, Peach Momoko, Ed Piskor, and there's a blank sketch cover available for that one. My next book, Street Angel, Princess of Poverty, available for pre-order now from Image Comics. This is collecting all of the Street Angel comics that I have done over the last 20 years that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive. Pick up Princess of Poverty, put it on the shelf next to Deadliest Girl Alive, and you will have a complete Street Angel collection on your shelf. My other books include The Plain Janes, Hulk Grand Design, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive is actually back in print after being unavailable for a while. So pick that one up if you haven't already. So, Ed, we are looking at we've been looking at a lot of Image books since we started Cartoonist Kayfabe. Wetworks was one of those initial 7 books that were announced before Image started. The last one to see print and the last one that we're covering here on Cartoonist Kayfabe. Yeah. Whilce Portacio, who was kind of part of that hot group of ex-Office artists. Should look at some of his X-Men books because I was a big fan of that stuff at the time.
Got 'em all.
This is one of the books I was most anticipating for 2 reasons. One, I really liked Whilce Portacio's art. And 2, it's about a paramilitary unit. I picture in my head the team from Predator.
Totally.
The best of the best. And they had the badass guns. You see, I think this is Dozer here with the submachine gun, those helicopter guns. I just loved all of this stuff at the time, and I was so ready for this book to come out. But I had to wait 2 years after it was announced.
Life happens sometimes, man. Wasn't there's a character called Dane in here, right?
Yeah. Dane, I think, is your main guy.
Wasn't one of those characters, like the name Dane, wasn't that Schwarzenegger in some movie?
Probably. It sounds like one of those action movie character names.
Like
I gave this a quick glance in terms of reading, because you kind of can't pay me enough to read a Brandon Choi comic. Lots of gobbledygook, lots of words that go nowhere. He is the luckiest man in comics. But I came up with a theory that I could test. I came up with a hypothesis that I could test as a theory with this comic, and it's names with the back half of the alphabet for consonants are like badass names. So you have Dozer, you have Mendoza, you have Craven, and that was like the 90s. Badass kind of guys would always have these like X, Z, V, Y like names, and there's just something inherently tough sounding about.
I need to add those to my naming conventions. Start my list in my notebook of all the cool names that I can then pull from. So we have Wildcats number 2 here.
Yeah, what's the date on this one?
This would have been
Still Malibu?
September 92.
Okay.
So I don't know if the date's up front in this one, but this is 94, I'm sure. June 94. So
Yes.
almost 2 years later. And the reason we have this is there's a Wetworks preview in the back here, but this is like, Gen 1 of Image Comics. You can see the Malibu logo. So this is the very beginning.
Now, we did the Eric Larson conversation. We went through the Savage Dragon comics, and he was talking about like the difference between Digital Chameleon and like Ollie Optics or just everything else. And Digital Chameleon was like the earliest run of this computer color separation stuff, and it would have these very proto computer color ticks that by the time that I got to Image Comics was a little bit later, and these looked old-fashioned. These look dated.
It evolves fast.
Yeah.
This digital coloring stuff evolves really fast. And that's kind of what we're going to show you
That's
guys
the
in this video.
conversation today. Yeah, that's the conversation today.
One thing I learned recently, and I think it was in that Eric Larson conversation, Digital Chameleon, Laverne Kandinsky, who often colored Keith Giffen, like the Lobos and the Trencher comics that we've looked at on this station. I had no idea, and it made me think, like, what exactly is this color, this digital color separating position? I think they were still doing color guides traditionally.
They were, yeah.
And then your digital color guide would translate that into the digital files for print. And one of the things that stood out in this issue, we'll go through this real fast, is that it's dark. And I think that was one of those early things that people were learning. This is an uncoated paper, which means a little bit more dot gain on each of those little tiny ink dots that make up these colors. And if that gains, it means more coverage. So you're going to get darker. And I think that's something that a lot of these early digital colorists had to figure out. They had to see some issues and be like, okay, we're going to have to peel back a little bit on our color. We're going to have to try not to get blacks in those color mixes, things like that.
This gray is surprising to me because like Joe Chiodo's doing the color set designs for this issue, and we saw a lot of magentas and pinks, and I think of that as him, and he will go against like just doing the gray, so that was kind of surprising to me. There's our Dan Quayle.
Dan Quayle making an appearance in here. There are some very striking images in this. When I think of Wildcats...
I'll show you one that I drew 1,000,000 times. It's going to be this grifter kind of jumping over a thing.
So here's a fun tangent. I was flipping through and I looked at this and I'm like, whoa, blood splatter. What's happening? Did she gut somebody? No, that's just the punch. Did she punch somebody in the face? Got completely full helmet head. This is like a jetpack.
Right.
It's such a bad tangent.
Right.
This is one of those...
I drew this 1,000 times.
It was one of those iconic Wildcats images. Like, this would be in ads and things. I feel like I've seen that image all over the place.
I had the Pog.
That one was one, and there were a few. Look, there's your Dan Quayle, right?
Oh, cool.
Turns out he's one of these aliens.
Yeah, he's a Damonite.
So much bizarreness in this.
There's Pike.
Yeah.
It all comes back. It all comes back, Jimmy.
This is one of those iconic, like when I think of Spartan, this was an image that I would see in a lot of places. Again, I don't know if that ended up being advertising art or what, but in this pose, a very popular Jim Lee pose, the crotch kick.
Yeah.
And that crotch is not being kicked, it's being exposed in the kicking action.
We're going to have some crotch conversation on this issue, man.
Money shot here of the Youngblood team by Jim Lee. Super cool to see.
That was something that when we did the Rob Liefeld conversation last rung with the Cable introduction, I would love to have gotten on the record at around that time. Jim Lee does that last issue of X-Men Extinction Agenda and does like a badass Cable. Rob, what do you think about that? Mm-hmm. Todd McFarlane did his Cable in the thing, so like stack them up. But it was always cool to see when these guys would draw each other's characters. And in a lot of ways, it would make you appreciate the original artist.
It does. This Shaft, I think you see shades of that Shaft pose in the Youngblood animated.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
sure, yeah.
And then I was admiring Combat, the amount of like color in that metal. This is your early digital. What's capable of early digital coloring, where we are going from blue all the way to orange, dude.
This feels like it feels like a rib.
It does. It really does.
And specifically, it would be a rib on Brian Murray.
Yeah.
Because like he would color real wild shit this way, and it's
I love it.
It's the only piece that looks like this in the whole comic, which suggests the
It's
rib
so
thing
far out.
to me.
Like 3 different metal textures
Yeah.
on Combat right there. All right, so here's what we've come for. This is your Wetworks preview, which would have been cutting edge digital color 1992.
Yes, we are on record. You specifically are on record for saying we were looking at something early. Like you dug the Wills Portaccio Iceman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's all this shiny gimmick stuff. Now, what you liked was a cool approach with the ice texture, but he was good at shiny surfaces. And what I mean by that is comic shorthand of shiny surfaces, which is these kinds of lines. I don't think that there's too much methodology to the lighting. Like, it's not accurate to a light source or something.
I don't even know how you would do that. You'd have to have like a stainless steel sculpture.
Right, right. But he understands the form of, the pecs and the abs and stuff, and could kind of see them in a 3D enough to make them feel metallic.
By the way, this is your Dane character, so look at how far the color goes from this first crack at it 2 years earlier.
Yes.
This always amazed me, like Colossus would have this kind of metallic sheen. His was blue. They would use blue and like the paper white and stuff, and then these blacks. And I would look at that, and as an artist, it was like, how on earth do you do this? Like, how do you draw metal?
And when you do it, and you copy their textures and stuff, it feels like magic. It feels like the first time when you draw a face and you draw an eyeball and you put that little white highlight on the pupil. It's that kind of eureka moment kind of stuff, man. Now, to set a stage, 1992, Terminator 2, Liquid Metal, the CG involved in that is cutting edge. Like, they are re-releasing fucking T2 at this point on pay-per-view. It is a big deal. It is a cultural force. And so, like, what's better than, like, one Liquid Metal guy? And, like, who's the Liquid Metal guy in Terminator 2? A skinny fuck. Make Arnold the Liquid Metal dude. We'll get there, Jimmy. We'll get there. Make Arnold the Liquid Metal dude and give him 5 friends.
Do you realize how up my alley this is? Whenever I'm about 13, 14, 15, whenever this is announced, like, those are the movies I'm watching.
Yeah.
Those are the characters I'm trying to draw. And then it's like Wills Portaccio's in my head, figuring out the exact book for me at that moment of my life. Unfortunately, it didn't come out for 2 years.
Yeah.
By then, I had kind of moved on.
Right.
But that is the recipe. And the Wetworks stands for these guys were special forces who went in and killed people in close range. And
It's
the
Team
wet
7.
the blood that would get on you was the wet work, and you see it like splashing on his face. You turn to this. Unbelievable.
Yeah, 4 pages.
Yeah,
and
not
you see
much,
these guys running around do some things.
But you do get the blood bukkake on our hero here at the end. And look at this.
How about
dude.
that shit? Is that J. Scott Campbell, you think?
It's about the right timing, huh?
Yeah.
That's got to be right. Got to be 17 and willing to relocate to San Diego, man. Send your samples.
Maybe it's all those dudes. Scott Clark.
It's what an exciting time. Like, this stuff used to really fuel my, like, I'm going to draw comics, and look, man, they're looking for people.
I said I never sent submissions to this because, like,
I did either.
Because, like, the Wild Story, like the Jim Lee stuff was lower rung. Like, Extreme Studios was my jam. I like that Rob was, like, just a couple years older and stuff.
You can see Pitt getting his due here, and Wetworks. You could have pre-ordered this two years in advance.
And you can see where the X-Men's and stuff are. So, like, X-Men's at, like, issue 18 or something, which Jim Lee leaves at issue 11, but even he still had ghosts and stuff. So that's an interesting piece.
I just saw Liam Sharp talk about his first comics sell out at the distributor level since he said Death's Head 2. To put a timestamp on this, man. That's incredible. What a journey, 30 years.
Show that triple cover, man.
So, this story was delayed 2 years, and the reason is some real personal loss on Wills Portaccio's part. And I would not talk about that normally because that's none of my business, but he writes a letter kind of explaining this. He had lost a sister. I think there was a lot of family care that was necessary, and ends up, I believe, selling Wetworks to Jim Lee as part of like working through all of this, I think.
Yeah. That is like the scary part of what we do is that there are no sick days. There's no workman's comp. None of that. It's no bereavement pay. So you have to have royalty. You got to like make your life work and all that kind of thing. And like I feel for this so much, man. It's impossible to work when you have something so heavy happening in your life. There's no way to do what you're supposed to do on the page with people who don't give a fuck and expect the best from you and pay their money for your comic. They don't care at all what's
Readers
going on
are,
in your life.
Pretty callous when it comes to their entertainment.
Totally. And man, if you to be like, if you want to talk about bad luck, delaying this book probably shaved off 400,000, 600,000 units, lots.
Yeah, I mean, it really, yeah. Like those first Image books were selling 1 million, give or take 200,000.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what this sold, but yeah, it's probably under 500,000.
Right.
2 years later, like things were bottoming out. These orders would have been canceled and then resolicited. Like it was a very, very heavy price he paid by not being able to release this. But that first wave.
The dude is a mensch, and family matters way more than fucking funny books. So he gets props.
Yeah. Let's dive back into the story.
Do it.
We mentioned Predator and that opening scene in the helicopter of like the Predator commando team rolling in. That's what we've got here, right? I'm back in the theater as a kid watching Predator.
Central casting. You got the guy literally called Jester, who I guess maybe he's the sexual tyrannosaurus of this dude? Issue.
Yeah, the Shane Black character. I forget his character name.
I was thinking Jesse
Ventura. Yeah. That little dude's the one that's telling all those jokes, though.
Right. Wilson is back in the game. He's going for it. To the point where he's going to do all this Jeff Darrow like tech just for panel borders. Like talk about like to what end, right?
Yeah. Do you think that Scott Williams is just cussing him as he's going around inking?
Pretty cool character design. Lots of black on the page, man. And I do think that it's that like when in doubt, black it out kind of black, like this. Is the drawing getting away from Wills to the point where he's like, you know what, shade that shit?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I actually think the black kind of works in most of these places. Or is it? I don't know what the thinking is.
Well, you're not drawing when you have black, so like, or is this a conceit to get the book out a little bit quicker by just kind of like doing that? One of the things that I would notice with Wills compared to Jim Lee, because there's a very similar style, and certainly when you have Scott Williams doing the ink and he creates a holistic approach in a way, is that Wills uses more black than Jim Lee does.
Yeah, there's some real differences in their style, and I think you see it more maybe in those X-Men. Whenever they're both doing X-Men and Uncanny X-Men, you can see some of those differences. Because like I said, I liked Wills a lot at that time. I was really into his stuff. It's interesting because both those guys have their shortcuts and shortcomings, but they were different. And that's, I think, what you want in a studio is have these guys that are coming in with some different tools. One of the things that they add to this book is there's supernatural stuff that they're fighting, like vampires and werewolves. I don't think Wills does the wolf hair texture particularly well.
No. And you know what's real funny is early on in my illustration career, I was going to do a ad campaign for Oakley Blades, and they did not go with me, and it was Wills. And it was like a werewolf with
He's
sunglasses.
done a couple of books like that.
Yeah.
Of like those hairy characters. So maybe it's just personal taste on my part. This is our first Wetwork guy.
Yeah.
And it's this symbiote. You see it like going in his mouth and in his eyes and stuff. This liquidy gold metal. It reminds me like at that time you've got Exo Manowar, you have Venom. Like these are some of the popular ideas of like this symbiote living on a character. And
we got to come up with a way to just make our metal dudes, man. So they are pinned down.
Claymore is this dude's name.
Of course. The Y is back consonant. They're pinned down. Dude gets fucking doused. and it's not easy going. He has to manipulate it in order to breathe. He's dying in there.
Yeah. Fight it, Claymore. And you see him struggling to breathe and finally gets the mouth open.
Yeah.
But still, he's a statue.
Right.
We're not going to see the full effect of what this does, but it is bulletproof.
Yes.
So everybody can appreciate that very quickly.
It's all about the color here. There was a video.
Look at the amount of blood.
Yeah, man. There was a video we did called the Rosetta Stone of Image Comics, where it came out from Heroes Illustrated, a little perfect bound gimmick, and it showed all the different strips and stuff, and like Wildstar and like all of that shit, and like the Wetworks stuff looked the most magical to me. I did not have that comic. It looked the most magical to me. I couldn't believe the leaps and bounds that comic book color technology took. It feels perfect for a 90s image because you almost couldn't abuse the lens filters and the little shinies too much because it was a character built for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're getting to see some of those Wetworks, like dudes' heads exploding as demolition charges go off.
So these guys are pinned down, right?
Yeah. This is always a good idea.
Yeah, go back one. These guys are pinned down. They don't know what to do until they do. And you see some more vials here.
One for each of them, conveniently.
Conveniently. And also, like, they saw... See, this is the sacrifice that these guys make for their country, Jim. Because they saw what completely happened to their fellow men, and they choose to go there. Like I like that he kept his glasses on. So you could flip the page... And this is the sacrifice that our guys make. Like they are they are now Wetworks, the team, and they're able to do away with our guys. But if you keep turning the page, Jimmy, you're gonna see the sacrifice that that these guys have made for their country, because they are now full eunuchs, no nipples, no fucking cocks. Keep going, dude, because like we're seeing them naked.
Yeah, where are those black shadows now?
Now. I don't know much about, burn victims and stuff, but I do know that, like, the first shit to go really, like, on a face is, like, the ears. It's, like, not a part of the thing. So maybe that's the deal. It just kind of is this, like, hanging appendage that just fucking singes off. But they are, like, Nephilims or, like, biblical angels or whatever. Like, they are now rendered sexless, but they did it for the core, for Team 7.
Here are your vampires, and maybe this is going to be a werewolf character. I wonder if this came in late, or if this was an initial part of the idea of Wetworks, was that they were going to be fighting these creatures of the night.
Yeah, if it's stuff that
supernatural.
Yeah, if it's stuff that Wills likes, because I got to tell you, they hit a lot of home runs with a lot of the subject, but like vampires, Anne Rice made the vampire extra uncool to like hardcore Gen X 90s kids. That shit was pussy. That shit was whack, and like all of I don't think the vampire has come back, because Team Edward and shit like that didn't do much to make it less bitchy, So like that was a misstep. We were past that shit because we grew up with the slashers, dude. We grew up with Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers, and this shit was like our dad's horror guys.
He did Legion of Monsters. It was a Marvel book, but it was a two-parter with Steve Gerber writing, and it was not long before this. It was maybe right before his X-Men or somewhere around in there, but it was like two big square-bound issues, and it was the same deal. Like it was these monster characters.
One of the coveted runs that the Image guys love, that they don't talk about it at the top. It's always like Art Adams or Mike Olden or whatever. But Tomb of Dracula was a big comic for those dudes. So maybe he's expressing his Tomb of Dracula love here.
Yeah, it could be. Preview of your making the Wildcats cartoon. Big deal at the time.
We're heroes, not zeros.
It's amazing, too, to look at this and think, like, Malibu here on the inside front cover of basically Image Year 1, and then what it becomes, like, 2 years later where we're seeing, like, the whole, they've got animated series, a giant editorial department, all kinds of stuff in production. Like, this is a publishing house,
right?
2 years into this run,
yeah,
did not take them long to get up and running.
Yeah, it's wild stuff, and Wills comes in at the 11th hour with the Wetworks comic, and he gets more props than most, man, because he sticks with it for a while. Like Jim Lee will do his couple issues and then go off and be a studio head. and you know, pimp his jobbers and stuff.
There was the greatest ad campaign for this thing.
Yeah.
Whenever when they're finally ready to release it, there would be the ad of like the team looking all cool and stuff, and it was like 2 years in the making. 14 pints of ink, 220 pen nibs, like all of this stuff, and it was like part Wetworks cool, and then part like the making of Wetworks.
Yeah.
And boy, did I eat that up. I would look at that ad in Wizards and other image books and just be like, I can't wait for this book again.
Because wouldn't it talk about like shell casings or like bullet
I feel
holes
like
also?
there were like bullets and then like pen nibs.
Right.
Yeah, I should have. I'll probably pull it up. It's probably on screen right now. But that ad was one of my all-time favorite comic book ads, and it whetted my appetite.
Yeah, man. So there it is, dude. We completed the Image Founder issue 1 videos, and the conversation that emerges with this one is exceptional because of the passage of time. Just seeing how computer color develops over such a fast period. It's like, you know, Moore's law catches up or something, because to render this on a 1992 machine might have taken, you know, the weekend or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you could have made it. You know, like you're even looking at like these tiny lens flares, like you mentioned all those gimmicks.
Yeah.
That Photoshop's like whatever filters that they would provide early on. It was like Wetworks took advantage of all those.
Exactly.
Weirdly.
Built for it.
Very strange. Yeah.
Built
very
for
strange. Adobe could have been the other ones that you might have sold this to at the time, where it's like, we can show off all of your gimmicks, Photoshop.
Yeah. It's so funny because like, this is what we were all chasing, and we felt like, you know, the glossy paper, it's like a higher quality book and stuff. But then as we develop our own taste and we grow, and there's been a glut of this, it makes sense that like our comics like go back, we revert when we have our option to color. It's like, strip away all of this, like none of this stuff works anymore. It's like OD'd on it in the 90s, man.
Yeah, you get to a point of like, how much further can you push it? But it is a moment, like for 1994, this is cutting edge production.
And this goes further. Like we can look at Liquid, the colorist for Joe Mad on X-Men. There will be whole characters that are basically the colorist is tasked with designing these like Steam characters and shit. Like maybe Joe Mad draws something but gives them full license to fucking do whatever they need to. So it becomes this like complete tandem of like drawing art and computer color art that gets further pushed. And those colorists will do depth of field in a big way, where like Storm is flying and it's in sharp focus, and then they will fuzz out the best. So like they put computer coloring evolves and it gets pushed to, I feel like the apex moment is Dark Knight Strikes Again, and then it all fucking, we got to bring it back down to earth.
Yeah, that was a different direction, and at that point it was like anything goes.
Yeah.
And you would see people do flat colors after that, you know, where it was like,
Exactly.
oh, I just have a million colors. I don't have to do gradations on everything.
Right.
But I have these colors that didn't used to exist. It's really interesting because that's the piece, like two things come out of Image in my mind. One is you get to own your own characters, so start figuring out your own characters when you're coming up. And the other thing is they revolutionized the color part of this industry. And, you know, if they hadn't done it, somebody else would have at some point.
Yeah.
But they were the ones who did it. Mm-hmm. And they did it aggressively. Like, it was from the very beginning of Image. They're like, here we go, cutting edge color and production.
Yeah. And those glossy comics, that did cost a little more. They cost a quarter extra than a Marvel comic, but you really felt like you were buying good value. And it was totally that time of like, here are the upper deck cards. You get fewer cards, but it's not on that like brown cardboard paper. It's on white cardstock, and that felt so. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's ironic because Marvel's getting into the card business at that time.
Yeah, Fleer. They buy Fleer,
but they aren't putting any of the effort into their comics.
No,
because when Jay Lee comes over for Youngblood Strike File, he's still doing Namor on newsprint.
Right,
and it's like, yeah, if you're an artist, which of these do you want?
Yeah.
One seemed like they really cared about your art, and one seemed like they didn't care at all.
Yeah, just churning out those pamphlets, man. Good to go?
Yep.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. King Kayfabers are watching these videos before anybody else because they get those videos delivered to them after we edit them, but they're watching us live stream the recording session at this very moment. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make. Jimmy, tell the people what you have out there.
Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadly Squirrel Alive are my latest books in print that you can pick up. My next book, Street Angel, Princess of Poverty. This is the cover. Will be coming out later this year from Image Comics. You can pre-order this now. It collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Deadliest Girl Alive. Some of them going back 20 years. Some of them having never seen print before. So you're going to want to add this collection to your bookshelf and get all of the Street Angel if you add Deadliest Girl Alive to your checkout order. And join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see my latest comics I'm serializing there, along with downloading out-of-print zines and minis and lots of other good stuff.
Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus is going to be hitting stores in 2023, but you need to put in those pre-orders. Hassle your comic shop. You got to get these copies pre-ordered because we're printing up a finite amount of them to start, and you don't want to be left waiting for the reprint of these comics to come. 504-page collection, contains all 4 volumes of the existing Hip Hop Family Tree books, but even if you have those volumes, man, you're getting 140 pages of additional art material in the omnibus. Red Room is going to start coming out in May. This is the cover to Red Room issue number 1. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game in Red Room Comics. It'll be coming out monthly. Self-contained stories, 2 trade paperbacks out there right now, 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design, and WYSIWYG. Jimmy, what else do we have going on?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, sweatshirts, stickers, and lots more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
Great ways to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Given those marching orders, we'll be on our way.
Read more comics.
Boom. We'll switch out the cams, Jimmy, and but I want you to host the...
Yeah, I'm going to hit the...
Yeah, I want you to host the Wonder Woman joint. Gilbert Hernandez Wonder Woman comics are the next round. It was hard to find digital of these.
Yeah?
Because I think they came out digitally or something.
It looks like Hernandez is set up for screen.
Yeah. So the numbers are weird on the little bootleg sites.
Switching out.
Yeah. Let me show you something real quick, dude. So, like, with the animation stuff, you could see each frame. That's a drawing, just like that little squiggle. And then you gotta draw shit like this. Like, when would you ever draw that? Like, what is that?
I like drawings like that. Once in a while, I'll see stuff like animators.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, they'll do a zine or something.
Like, look at this shit.
I kind of like that stuff.
But it worked. And, no, me too. Because it's also problem solving of shit that I never drew before. But it's like, how do you get from here to like a white screen?
Right.
Because then that's a scene that you could shoot all by itself. And then, like, when it comes back, it's like, that's a drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do 2 versions of that so that you hold the moment so that you're just not static. But you could milk a half a second. And then, like, how do you make smoke come out? And then, like, just using what I know from comics for the hatching. And then, like, that's a drawing. That feels very awkward as a drawing unto itself. But, like, when you see the shit, it works, What's going to come next is her name. And then if we get done in plenty of time, which I'm quite sure we will, I need to shoot a video, an extra video for Sotheby's auction.
When is that happening?
June. So I'm going to set this up, but I'm going to have you host it.
Oh, that's not I'm going to close this.
Yeah. Yeah, the way when I was looking on the pirate sites for these comics,
Yeah.
like each strip is numbered. So this will be say because it's issue 3, this might be number 7. So I had to find fucking issue 17 or something is that, and it was driving me insane. And then when I am reading 17, I'm like, well, I hope it's the right stuff. I was looking online, and I didn't see that he did a big run.
No, I don't know of any other stuff. Oh, this is weird.
What happened?
It started me at the beginning of the feed.
I'll make you fast forward to the end, to the new. See? Okay, yeah, so Jabba's saying each issue is broken up into 3 or 4 99-cent digital chapters. That was how these were disseminated online.
Jabba, you know what years that was?
Probably as they came out, 2014, whatever.
They had,
just in place of the issues.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing.
DC had, remember everybody would have their online initiative?
Yeah, this is called DC's Digital First line. So I guess maybe these did come out first and then they get collected.
Yeah, hard to.
They were trying, and you know what? It's you guys. It's the readers that I'm glad you guys never fucking bit, because I like drawing comics on paper. Yeah, I like reading them on paper. Fuck this digital shit.
I'm format agnostic.
That's good, man. I got bills to pay, man. I need to sell me some books.
Well, that's true. I was thinking as a consumer.
Pay my bills with this shit. Good to go?
Hit it. Hello and welcome to YouTube's favorite comic book channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
Before we begin, I want to remind everybody that there is a Cartoonist Kayfabe Patreon out there. 3 different levels will get you access to our videos ahead of everybody else, give you a chance to beat the kayfabe effect on these books that can be hard to track down in some cases. At the King Kayfabe or top level, you actually get to sit in on these recording sessions, and you really are the first ones in line at any of these books that you want to add to your collection. The other way to support Cartoonist Kayfabe, buy our books. We're working cartoonists. You see our bibliography on the screen in front of you right now. My latest books, Plain Jane's, Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, and Hulk Grand Design are all available. My next book, Street Angel Princess of Poverty, is available for pre-order. This collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Deadliest Girl Alive. It'll be out in a couple of months and has some comics that have not seen print before. So pick that one up. Let your store know you want a copy. Ed Piscor has 2 trade paperbacks of Red Room, 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design, 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree and WYSIWYG. But coming out later this year, Hip Hop Family Tree, the Omnibus. This collects all 4 of those volumes of the Hip Hop Family Tree plus 140 extra pages, and it is available for pre-order right now. So let your dealer know that you're looking for it. His other series, Red Room, Season 3 is starting up very soon. Crypto Killers #1. You see the mask cover available there. There's also variants by Peach Momoko, me, Ed, as well as a blank sketch cover. Again, subscribe to this at your local dealer. Let them know you want to get copies of Red Room Crypto Killers, because sometimes these are hard to come by.
That's it.
All right, today we are looking at a Gilbert Hernandez Wonder Woman comic.
We are looking at the best Wonder Woman comics to come out, maybe ever, certainly of the past 30 years.
I was looking at this and trying to figure out exactly when it was done. The comics are like 2014, 2015 era, but who knows when these were actually created, because it reminds me of Jaime doing Tie Girls, a superhero comic in the early 2000s. And the Hernandez brothers are versed in every comics genre.
Yeah.
Superheroes are nothing new to them, but the chance to play with some of these licensed characters is a little bit novel. I don't know that Gilbert has done any other Wonder Woman comics, so it's kind of cool to see his take on this Amazon superpowered hero, and figure we'll just start flipping through it and comment as we go. First thing you see is a pretty radical character design. Gigantic muscles, looks like Hulk Hogan in the arms.
It's fantastic. It's shades of Birdland.
Very strange.
In here, it's like you change a couple of proportions on Luba, and you get Wonder Woman.
Very bizarre. And notice, like, I think of him as brush inks and sometimes a very lush line. It's a very spare line in these, and I think that's probably intentional, thinking about how's color going to work.
He's grown into pen in the past 20 years for sure, and he's leaving lots of open spaces. The blacks you see are underplanes, mouth gapes, and hair, knowing that he's going to have some color put onto this man, that which was probably novel for him as well, like very versed in black and white comics, so you don't see any of the noodles of texture that we see in like the Skies of Palomar or anything like that. But
I think that open style works really well with color.
Still full freaking Gilbert.
It is. There's an oddness and an alternative comics to it. There's also a very much like a silver golden age, I don't want to say simple story, but it kind of is. It's pretty straightforward of these aliens that are trying to... The premise is they want to hypnotize the strongest Earth-born person, and that happens to be Wonder Woman. So that's what we've got here. You see her powers come into play here with her lasso and stuff. Almost beats this first attempt at hypnotizing her, but at the last second, sure enough, she falls under their power.
I will say that, man, it's so funny, like, because I look so close at comics and things, it misses his lettering. Like he's so much better than this typed font, and that does hurt to me. But he sees these characters for what they are. They're silly characters. They're vestiges of the 40s.
It's very cartoon.
Yeah, and when you try to play it for serious, it often looks ridiculous. So just lean into it for what it's worth. And Cartoonist is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. She's being kidnapped by some kind of alien craft here, and Supergirl sees it happen, decides she's going to follow along because something isn't right.
Cool monster designs. Great to see him get several characters to play with. I remember either seeing him on a panel or being on a panel with him, and just talking about like the fucking headache of dealing with DC editorial when it comes to just like character usage and having access to a character. Nobody would...
Which is ludicrous.
Yeah, it's like if you get...
Because where does this fit?
If an artist like Gilbert Hernandez deigns to make a comic with your ridiculous dreck that you have out on the stands on a monthly basis, and you don't let him do what he wants, that is a fault of you, the editor, the publisher. Fuck your trademarks or whatever. This guy can put a brand new coat of paint on something that has languished for a million years. This stuff is dead.
I love this. This is sort of your little comics language piece.
Yeah.
You see the stuff that Hernandez can do. The different body types of women
Yes.
goes right into his Love and Rockets history. But playing with little formal bits like this, like the X-ray vision, almost a sight balloon. It's going to her eye instead of her mouth.
And
just clever little, easy to read storytelling.
An absolute master of composition.
Yes.
Absolute master. Second to none.
So this first chapter is like, I don't know, 6 pages, 8 pages, very, very short. Fortunately, this second part, you see it was to be continued, and he gets the lead-off feature in this one, and it's a much meatier, longer story.
And might I say, props to the colorist. Like, I know they wanted to do this shit to his comic. I know you did. I get it. But you left him alone to an extent. You gotta get your shit in a little bit with this kind of nonsense, but thank goodness, right? You cannot take that for granted that these people would be literate enough to hang back and
It's very true.
Give him, just enough.
So this story, she's taken to some alien planet, and I love that because now you can do weird colors.
Right.
Because who knows, what it's a different sun where they're at.
Yeah.
So I kind of love that part. And again, it feels like it taps into that golden age of like just weird shit's going to happen.
And dude, just stuff moving everywhere. Great designs on aliens. Like everybody's bouncing
Totally
around.
cartoony. Like we're cutting through mountaintops as we're fighting because Supergirl doesn't know what's up exactly and Wonder Woman's attacking her.
Unstoppable force, immovable object.
Oh, Jim Ross could go out to lunch calling this fight. Such a slugfest.
And he could tell you where this guy went to college.
I was trying to think of a sport he might have done. He was a fencing major.
D'Artagnan.
Look at the scale, though, of these two as they're like fighting back and forth to set up that they're going to charge into each other with this megaton explosion. Could have done a little bit more, I think, in that color. Could have been a white center at the explosion point. It's a little flat for a super imagined atomic bombs going off right there.
It just it reads as like music for monsters or Blubber or any of those other Beto books, man. That aren't
It's so alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that he leans into that too. Like it's cool that he gets
Stays
to do
himself.
Gets to do Wonder Woman, but also his
voice.
wearing it on his sleeve here.
Yeah,
and that's what you want.
Yes.
I bought this for Gilbert Hernandez. I
Yeah.
don't want him to ape some kind of DC or anything. I want it to be Gilbert Hernandez doing stuff. And who shows up? He gets another character to play with. Phoenix. No, Mary Marvel.
Right.
Mary Marvel, same body type, pretty much as Supergirl.
Yeah, they're girls. Like it's Supergirl, Marvel Girl, Mary Marvel. So like you don't want to put bus lines on them.
And
chicks.
I think the conceit is their explosion was so gigantic, shades of Grant Morrison, that it tears a hole in the fabric of reality, and she's coming in from another dimension.
come from the Fawcett universe.
Really important because we're gonna go back to that. But now we've got a 3-way. And again, Jim Ross, man, we needed a guest this episode, Ed.
A slobber knocker.
Indeed. Just throwing Supergirl back and forth, which speaks
funny
to
as
the
shit.
fun cartooning. This entire page is them just flipping her back and forth at each other. Hilarious. Until she gets angry and then has to fry them with her heat vision and goes to try to let's stop this at its source.
So you could tell that this is probably like a screen.
Yeah.
This is a screen because this is some digital first bullshit. So I wonder, did it come out as like a unit or like was it a daily strip or every Sunday or something, or is this just a page? Like it all comes out at one? I have no idea.
It's interesting. I don't know the frequency of publication, if it was all released at once or not, but clearly you can see those screen demarcations. Why do that in print? Because we're not on screen anymore. This is a print book. This is a print book. Somebody prepped these pages to go to the printer and be put into a book. Why keep that gutter?
Yeah.
You didn't have to.
Right.
It's even a kind of a weird margin at the top and bottom as a result of having that margin in the middle.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder if the original page doesn't have it, and that's something that they put in artificially.
I always think that I don't think that they do any. I don't think it was put in artificially. I think that it's like whatever's easiest, and I don't think that there's no thought put into it.
These panels, it's not like these are complete scenes either.
Yeah.
You're flowing, like there's no extra
true.
space time between these panels. Same scene and everything. So, I don't know. Whatever. But nevertheless, whenever she blasts them with her heat vision, it actually snaps Wonder Woman free. And so she's going to get her own pound of flesh payback in this way. But Supergirl now has been depleted with this kryptonite ray, which pretty convenient that they had that stocked up. Mary Marvel, let's take her out to the orange sun and hope for the best. Not sure how it's going to work out. This is almost Fletcher Hanks, that cover to the second Fletcher Hanks cover.
Yeah, like all the storytelling, like everything about it, like Gilbert is just like allowing his imagination to go so far out. You know, like his stuff is so steeped in a kind of a logic, but this is a place where you get to play with some stuff that's
it makes me wonder if he had looked at Fletcher Hanks before he did this story, because that's some of my favorite superhero comics.
It would have been about the time,
and I like this story, and now that I think about it, it's like that really explains her design.
It would have been about that time. Yeah, it says Stardust.
Yeah, it's just weirdness. You know, it's just pushing that envelope a little bit further. And she's getting her payback, and we're going to find out that Supergirl survived. Should have covered up this page. But spoilers, she did.
Doesn't it? Yeah, doesn't it? Back to the Wonder Woman design. Like, good on DC editorial for letting that one go through.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. It's so much fun. It's one of the things that attracted me to this. I actually had a coverless version of the first chapter, is how I knew this existed and wanted to track it down, and was thrilled to find out, you know, this is a longer piece. So very cool. But yeah, hats off to the editor that allowed this kind of unusual take on Wonder Woman. Look at how great this is for just decomposing a panel, having that orange circle in the middle, having all the characters there. Simple, but man, really, really pops.
You can see, man, the colorist is like, please, I just want to use flares and blurs.
It also speaks to that of like the restraint shown by the colorist. Well done, because this could have been a disaster.
Exactly.
You could have really ruined it. And there's weird stuff like the highlights on Wonder Woman here. Very bizarre shadow color.
He wants to play. They want to play with their crayon box so bad. You know, the adjacent comic to this, man, to me is Tom's Super Friends comic. You know, like just kind of like going off into your own universe every now and then. And you notice like it's rare that they let this kind of thing be the first thing that you open up when you open up a DC Comics cover.
Yeah, but kind of amazing this got the lead.
But every now and then, man, they will let something happen that just goes against type.
Yeah, and now they're trying to send Mary Marvel home. They're going to do their three-way collision again. Once again, man, Jim Ross on the call would be pretty big. Pretty big. Wonder if we can do that without getting in YouTube trouble.
See, if Gilbert was doing this for Fantagraphics, they would have been flying together legs first.
Flying drop kicks. Oh man. And flying her home in her little protective bubble, which we're not done with this story yet.
Yeah, dude.
That bubble's a living alien.
Full blubber.
So pitches him out to the moon and kind of talks about her strength coming back and how she didn't realize she was the most powerful earthborn human on the planet. Never thought about it, never had to. And here we go, bouncing back to reality.
The compositions, Jimmy. Every panel, perfectly composed.
It reads so effortlessly. I've been going through that Roy Crane How to Make Comics, and he talked pages and pages on simplifying, and I feel like this could have been the example that he used if he was writing that simplification chapter today. So that's the end of our Gilbert Hernandez, but I did want to point out, this is Wonder Woman at the time. David Finch doing Wonder Woman. Look at that thing.
Stuff,
excess.
Man. Just like we flipped the page. No, that's pretty cool. But like
that's
when you,
Dino.
Yeah, shouts to Dino, man. But when you flip the page, and then you get to that stuff, it's so unattractive compared to what we just been looking at.
The funny part is, if Hernandez was doing Attack of the 500-Foot Woman, I feel like that would be an equal. Like I'd be on board to read that too. Totally. A giant Wonder Woman coming through like a Godzilla-like city.
It lets you know just the command of comics language that he has, and you see evidence of it. I remember there was like, you know, the David Aja, hopefully that's how you pronounce the fellow's name properly, Hawkeyes, and I think they were padding out. I think they were okay. It's perfect because if that's David Finch, they were padding out the trade paperback, and they had some, you know, like a Brian Hitch or something in the back, and it creates this, like it makes me laugh, like, and I can't control it. Like you read this thing, it's so beautifully composed, like the artists are in full command of their tools and stuff, and there's like artistic restraint. And you don't have to use all the tools in Photoshop and all the colors. And then when you flip the page and then you see like back to reality, what comics is right now, you know, in total, you can't help but crack up.
I always think like, all right, I see this cover and I buy this, right? I'm like, oh, look at that cover. so excited for it. And then you open it up and it's this.
Right.
Someone's unhappy.
Yeah,
And conversely, I love this part. I'm never opening this comic. Like, I'm walking right by this because that's not the comics that I'm interested in.
Never knew it existed.
Right. It's such, it happened. It's happened as long as I've read comics.
Yeah.
This kind of bait and switch on the cover, and sometimes I get it. You have a really nice cover artist, and Brian Boland's not going to draw the inside of your book, but
Yeah.
you get this really beautiful cover. But the other times, it's like stylistically, these things are opposites.
Yeah. Which
Someone's going to be unhappy.
Yeah.
Or someone's not going to look at it, and it just is so confounding to me.
Yeah. It's clickbait.
It is. It's a bait and switch concept, and I don't know, when you're publishing 200 comics a month, like, why do it that way?
Yeah.
It just feels like you're going to make somebody unhappy.
And down to the creatives, like, it's letting you know from editorial that they don't think they could sell your comic with your cover. There's no other way about it. Like, this is a primo spot. You get paid double to triple what you get paid in an interior. It's a very important part of the comic. So the editor, like, in truth, is saying, like, you know what, you can't sell this comic that you worked on. But is that Adam Hughes or somebody? Like,
I don't think it's him, even though it looks like his stuff. But you usually see his AH
Right.
apostrophe or exclamation point somewhere. Yeah. But definitely in that vein, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a weird one. I don't understand that. But hey, whoever decided to do some Gilbert Hernandez Wonder Woman and let him do his stuff, hats off to you. Well done.
I mean,
I enjoyed it.
I mean, is a hyperbole to call it the best Wonder Woman comic ever made? I might just do that for this video.
It's my favorite, but maybe we'll look at some John Byrne Wonder Woman at some point and see if there's other stuff out there.
I got the run, man. Kayfabers. Like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. And if you are on our Patreon, which is in the link in the description below this video, you're able to get these videos before anybody else if you're a King Kayfaber. Completely mitigates that kayfabe effect, and the King Kayfabers are hanging out with us right now in the chat room watching us record this stuff live. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make, and coming soon is going to be the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus, 504 pages collecting the entire 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree with 140 pages of additional material that is not collected in those big books, man. So lots of added value in the Omnibus collection coming out later this year. Going to be a great holiday book for the hip hop lover in your life. And even if you have the old volumes, that 140 pages is lots of value in that. There are 2 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree. There are 2 volumes of Red Room trade paperbacks out there right now, and we're starting off the last season of Red Room in May with Crypto Killers issue 1. There's the newsstand cover. Jimmy did a variant, Peach did a variant, I did a variant. There's a sketch cover that you might find out there, man. But the orders are in, and it'll be showing up at your comic shop in about a month's time as of this recording. 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design are out there, and WYSIWYG. Jim, what books you got?
Hulk Grand Design, Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive, and The Plain Janes are all available and in print right now. My next book, Street Angel, Princess of Poverty, will be coming out later this year from Image Comics. It collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive. This includes work going back to the very beginning of Street Angel 20 years ago, 20th anniversary of Street Angel, believe it or not.
Amazing.
And it includes some stories that are not printed anywhere else. So pre-order that one today. You can join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see more of my comics that are out of print or unavailable, as well as my next comic, which I'm serializing there.
Let the people know what else we have going on, Jimmy.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, stickers, and more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
Great ways to support the channel. Give them those marching orders, and we'll be on our way.
Read more comics.
It just occurred to me that this Art Adams looks real sexy in the Essential Editions. You know what, Jimmy?
Yeah.
I just heard a Amazon deliverer, man.
You think your book showed up?
Let's take a look.
Boy, you guys are in for something special if this is what we think it is.
cock block.
Oh, I was in here selling it.
Yeah. Too bad, man. That would have been just so perfect.
Yeah, it's got some artist editions on the way that you can bet will find their way onto Cartoonist Kayfabe
Next week.
as soon as possible.
It would have been so great to have the scoop, yeah.
Yeah, would have.
This opens up pretty much with this volume. But we'll take 2 bites of the apple, and I'll give you this to follow along. Because it's probably it's pretty hard to see on the screen, really.
You think?
What would you prefer to look at, like to have on the screen, Jimmy? This is flexographic printing, so it's like the measles era of skin tone and stuff.
I would put that on just because it's the main thing. It's how people know it.
Yeah,
like it's the original.
And color's just more attractive to the NPC.
Man, I have not looked at this. When was this published? Like
90? Yeah, no, 80s.
92?
No way.
91?
85.
Wait, what book is this? Ah, I thought you were doing Days of Future Present.
Oh, no. But you know what? This one has a bunch of anchors. Good ones too. Like, who do we got? Mignola?
Al Gordon, Mike Mignola, and Art Adams.
Let me see if this is the one. Yeah. Like, at this era, he was always taking flyers on the last pages, man.
Yeah.
So, for you guys playing at home, man, going to look at X-Men Annual 9. Yeah. You can hit that, Jimmy. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
We're going to be looking at a pretty influential comic today on Cartoonist Kayfabe, but we have to let you guys know that we do have a Patreon, and the King Kayfabers on the King Kayfabers on the Patreon get access to the videos before anybody else, and they're watching us live stream record these sessions. Takes the kayfabe effect out of their comics buying habits and supports the channel. The videos are brought to you by the books that we make, and 2023 is going to be a pretty big year for us here at Cartoonist Kayfabe. Coming later this year is going to be the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus. 504 pages, 140 pages of additional material that is not in those first 4 volumes. Scoop that thing up, put in your pre-orders now so that we know how many of these suckers to print. Red Room Crypto Killers is going to start coming out in May. This is the last Red Room miniseries that will be coming out for the foreseeable future onto other ideas. Going to be coming out on a monthly basis. Every story completely self-contained. So if you see a Red Room comic out in the wild, scoop it up, give it a try. There are 4 volumes Hip Hop Family Tree. There are 2 Red Room trade paperbacks out there right now. 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design and WYSIWYG. Pretty soon, out on the stands, Jimmy's Street Angel Princess of Poverty book collection is going to see the light of day. It's going to collect all of the Street Angel comics that did not make it into Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive. The pre-Image comics, Street Angel comics are in there. Plus, I hear tell there's a story in there that's never been published. That's extra value right there. Jim Rugg's Hulk Grand Design is out there in Treasury Edition format. Scoop it up sooner than later because you're going to regret it if you don't get your hands on it this first round, man. No word on reprints. Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive is the trade paperback that is in print right now, and Plain Jane's is out there. support the comics, and keep these videos rocking. Had a conversation with Rob Liefeld not too long ago, Jimmy, and he was flat out made the statement it was Art Adams that we were all chasing. It was Art Adams. People bring up Michael Golden. No, we weren't looking at Michael Golden. We were looking at Art Adams because of the influence from Michael Golden with the addition of other stuff, presumably more manga-ish kind of imagery. The Masamune Shiros, the Katsuhiro Otomo, like that brand of manga. It gets incorporated into that Art Adams style. He's a slow guy. He only works on special projects for Marvel. It might be a fill-in issue here, might be a fill-in issue there. He will do the annuals for some time with X-Men because the guy could basically do 60 pages a year if he's lucky as a penciler. You can't have that kind of energy on your regular books. Too many fill-ins would be needed, but when the Image guys who were extremely inspired by this were coming up and had that blood in their mouths when they were becoming pros, they acknowledged the limits of their drawing ability and said, basically, we will do the hack version. We will do the monthly version of Art Adams, which ultimately would mean get a lot of lines on the paper, probably don't have the sound drawing chops, but it looks close enough to feel right.
Yeah, 85% of Art Adams, pretty good, better than most of the stuff that you were buying in that kind of monthly grind time period.
Right. And it's this period specifically, man. It's the 2-part saga from X-Men Annual 9 and the New Mutants Summer Special, which is another book that we could look at sooner than later. I think that the New Mutants joint comes before this.
This is there's some heavy hitters of inking starting with the cover here. Walt Simonson on that cover inks, and man, I'm following along at home in the essentials.
Yes.
So seeing the black and white edition.
Essential
of
number
this art.
Essential number 6. You're getting about 70 pages of black and white, pristine, beautiful Art Adams comics in beautiful black and white. I think this first one's all Terry Austin, but
some of these, I mean, it's breathtaking. I don't know who's inking which pages, but I mean, some of it, I'm looking at it, prepping for this video going, is this the best Art Adams? It's really top-notch Art Adams.
Yeah, he's firing on all cylinders here. Marvel has switched over to the flexographic printing technology, which doesn't really allow for these thin noodles. So you will see the little wiry worms of lines that will show up every now and then in a uniformity. And also whenever they switch to that format for color separations, the Caucasian skin tone, it changes. Like the dots are further apart. So I call it measles because you can kind of see a Caucasian peach, but you can see the dots bigger and further away, which for this kind of penmanship doesn't lend well. But this is the way most of you guys know the comic. This is what we'll look at. But I encourage everybody to get that Essential X-Men Volume 6.
I'm guessing this page is an Art Adams ink job. And I'm saying that for a couple reasons. One, I feel like there's certain drawing that I don't know if you're not the penciler that you would be doing some of these. The lines are really subtle, but they're following muscles and curves and things like that I'm going to ascribe to the artist.
Yeah.
But also it feels like maybe he's setting the tone here by doing some of the opening pages and sort of like, hey, this is ideal Art Adams.
You would see his inking on the covers of the classic X-Men and a pen guy. And by pen, I'm talking about micron pens. This dude is not dipping ink. This dude is not slinging a brush. To this day, he can maximize what a micron pen can do probably better than anybody. And nowadays he uses the microns. You see him like the sepia ass microns. He will get thick and thins and things. When you see this kind of tier thing, the guys who come up later, the Liefeld, the Lee, they'll do this exact bit on Extinction Agenda where they show like the roll calls and stuff. Totally inspired by this. One of the most badass Wolverines, tight hair like that, Dutch angles on the Colossus transformation pose. He is the first guy who could like make any characters look cool. Like when we looked at that issue 275 of X-Men and we saw the Jim Lee Deathbird and how it's like, oh, this dude, he took Deathbird over. Like, everybody got inspired by like that version of Deathbird. Art Adams is like the first guy to come onto the scene and really make a character like Loki look like somebody that you would want to draw.
Or not.
In the case of Warlock.
Some of these character versions, man, I don't know, they would scare me away.
Yeah. Like, Rob was so honest about that Warlock character, man. And I just drew him a couple of times in the X-Men Grand Design, and I never looked forward to it. For as fun of a character as he is.
I can't believe the amount of work on these pages.
Yeah.
Many of them feature, 20 characters or something scattered across the panels, as well as backgrounds and perspective, and just all this, just a lot of marks.
Yes, he is one of those guys. He grids off those panels. When there is a perspective moment, he is gridding off those panels to get accurate perspective and to place those characters into space correctly. It's these kind of marks here that the Image dudes would start to really kind of fixate on. I would call this a Mignola page, because Mignola would do these kind of things with like white feet and just some of that stuff.
That character's so tall. It's like an alien visitation.
It doesn't look human.
No.
And I think it's just Cannonball.
Look at that for a weird effect of the, I guess that's a screen.
Yeah, you just don't color it, and it's just Zipatone doing the trick. And that lets you know that, like, the gray Hulk that was really like a blue and yellow and red mixed together, like, that's what it would look like if you just did gray.
It would have been such an interesting character design if they had done it that way.
Yeah.
It would have really been different than every other comic book.
Look at the depth he's able to get with these perspective pieces, man. These are the bits that the Image guys didn't bring to their practice right here. The knowledge of perspective and reference and coming up with that kind of imaginative landscape.
He has a lot of cartoony stuff in his work.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's hit and miss with guys who have copied him. I think like a J. Scott Campbell, you see those cartoony bits, and I love that part.
Even McFarlane. But, like Jim Lee, I don't see it. No.
There's not that cartoony kind of, I don't know, fun, silly at times.
Yeah, and I think Jim Lee was leaning way more into the Barry Windsor Smith camp.
Yeah, probably not a lot of humor in Barry Windsor Smith's work.
Right.
That guy's not joking around in his drawings.
Look at him twisting these characters around, putting a bunch of characters on a page. Never just straight on.
A lot of action. That was something I used to read all the time and trying to figure out how to make comics, was like, you don't have the characters standing around doing nothing.
Right.
Always have them doing something. Except whenever you're doing a team book, boy, that can be a lot.
He plays with body type on his characters, and I think that I wonder if that has some George Perez influence, man. You look at like New Teen Titans and things, and Kid Flash has a stronger looking leg than Robin, for instance.
I always love seeing that, because to me that means the guy cares.
Exactly.
The artist.
Yeah. One of the greatest for the proportions of X-Men is Art Adams, and he always makes sure to give you that really tiny
That
Wolverine.
used to be so important.
Yeah.
When I first started reading, it was like Wolverine had to feel short. And then like somewhere early in my reading, that kind of went away.
There's an example of your Warlock right there, man.
Pretty fun Warlock idea there.
It would be funny if like all the inkers of this issue were like, Art, you got to ink all the Warlock pages.
That would be amazing. Or even just think the Warlock. Whenever he appears, you're inking it. There's somebody else's hand all around it.
And that's the thing with this issue, this series of issues. Art Adams was tasked with doing more than just drawing comics. He's inventing character designs, like an Asgardian Storm, which makes a lot of sense.
It's incredible to see the hatching and the parallel lines and stuff that he's applying in 1985.
Totally.
Like this feels way ahead of what we're going, because it does define a lot of the Image guys, the way they would hatch everything and all those parallel lines. I don't know that you saw it very much at this time.
Here's your shades of Michael Golden right here in
Big
this
time.
Kitty Pryde face. Just take a look at that Avengers Annual 14. I think we actually did that issue.
Yeah.
I think Tom has that, and we did an episode on that. But these kind of big eyes, very expressive faces.
Speaking of like those kinds of like hatchings and things.
Yeah, you want to go back one?
No. It was on this page. This is that square, like the screen door, I think we call that sometimes. Yeah. Which again, you would see some of the image dudes using that.
Yes. You know, that was what Rob was searching for in our chat with him. He's like, "What do we call that stuff?" But like, that's what he's talking about. Yeah, and it's just this like way to kind of break up space. But because the image guys are a copy of a copy of a copy, they would put more kind of space in between the screen doors and stuff, and it would be more, it would call way more attention to itself. That's the thing. When you look at it here, it's tonal and it's texture, but it doesn't really call attention to itself when you have like the big blobby lines that Rob would put down on like the background of X-Force 1 or in those panels.
Yeah, the blown up version of that is an odd thing. And looking at this in black and white, it's interesting because like he's applying a different texture background to each panel, and it's like in today's world, like it's just up to the colorist. You're just going to give them an empty background or whatever and let them figure that part out. But here you see it working in black and white, which a lot of comics art doesn't really do now.
Now this is the thing with Art Adams around this period. First off, the dude was firing on all cylinders from word go, and he's new. Like that Long Shot miniseries is like out around this time, maybe a year before or something like that. He's inexperienced, and he's getting a lot of work. He's getting all the work he wants in comics, and he's got to make it work for himself. And we just saw pages with all these characters. This is a flyer tier. This is a quickie, man. Draw a head, draw some silhouettes, draw a close-up. Like, we're getting close to deadline time. He's famously late.
Tons of Barry Windsor Smith to me in this face.
A little bit, yeah, for sure. Yeah, the brows and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly around this period of time, Art is always taking flyers on like the last couple pages, and it's never more evident than the low-key page on this issue. There's your Warlock with that. It's so funny to see. Bill Sienkiewicz's conceit was, let's bring a Ralph Steadman sensibility to an X-Men comic. Let's see what that looks like in the Marvel universe. And what is Steadman? It's kinetic energy. It's like letting stuff drop on the page and spatter out. It is not Art Adams' kind of tight constipation, anal retention, clear penmanship. But this is what it looks like filtered through his vision. It's fascinating.
Calls to mind his work on Gumby.
It does.
Which is really not something I would have expected.
Right? Like when reading, his bibliography and seeing that Gumby was on there, there would be periods where I have Art Adams binges when I would go to the comic shop, get a hold of $30, and like let me just like go down my Art Adams list and got those Gumby comics. We did a video on one of them.
Yeah, same.
That's a hell of a Castlevania panel right there, man.
I wonder if that's a Mike Mignola. If he's calling pages out, man, let me do that castle.
Yeah, they came up together.
They were roommates at the time.
Yeah, they came up together. I don't know if they all went to that same art school, but it was like Art Adams, Mignola, and Steve Purcell, the guy from Sam and Max, who now works at Pixar. That's a heck of a trinity of dudes.
Yeah, a lot of talent in that house. Yeah, loving some of this stuff. Really wild drawing.
Douglock, I believe, is this era, right?
So weird.
It really is, man.
So weird. Like Warlock all mangled up there. So bizarre to think of him. Like, how do you have a Warlock that's like body language emoting something?
Yeah. And character-wise, like this is that, Enemy Mine, E.T., all of those weird, human alien movies. How about this super odd surprint stuff?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that.
It's an experiment. It doesn't work.
Like it's off register too.
Yeah, it's worth trying.
I suppose that's a pretty strange Wolverine face.
Yeah, with the little black eyes. I still draw dudes with the squinty like black eyes like that. Jaime would do that. Whenever we get these full bodies, man. Dude, this pose. Tell me Rob doesn't push that kind of posing in his like New Mutants X-Force era of comics.
It's incredible that he's doing like, what is that? Eight full figures in a third of the page splash.
We were looking at Galassi, man, and we were talking depth and stuff. That's one thing that doesn't exist here in these Adams pages is that real depth. Everything's on the same plane. You see what might be, a golem or something, but it doesn't feel that big compared to the characters in the background.
I'll tell you, the coloring, this is where you can point at coloring and being like, that hurts.
Yeah.
Because that's your foreground and your background,
Yeah,
the same exact color.
Real dumb. Real dumb.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. But we're getting into 4-tier pages. Still speaks of that like young Art Adams who has to figure out how to get all of this Chris Claremont shit in on a page. And that's probably the divorce between like the Liefelds and the McFarlanes, who Rob admitted, we got those scripts and we just did what we wanted.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask him clearly enough, and maybe he was kind of like a good soldier, but Rob and Todd, far away from the Marvel offices, they got a FedEx stuff. Do you wait until the last possible second when you're doing that kind of thing, and then send it off, and then it can't come back or be? I
don't know if you have to wait. Like on a monthly schedule, you're always near the edge. Got to be some life death, Barry Windsor Smith influence there.
Yeah.
And why not? If you're looking at what these standout pieces are, those are big issues.
This is where the newsprint gets dicey, dude. Especially when you have an adjacent page that has lots of black ink on it, because this is muddy stuff.
All right, well, let's look at the black and white next to it then, because like I flipped to this page and I'm like looking over at color to just try to make sense of like what am I seeing in this madness.
Yeah,
it's a wonder they haven't reprinted this stuff oversized.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we just gave them an idea for sure. It's all very clearly the lines are legible. It all gets muddied in the color, but yeah, you're right. You certainly need the color, and the colors doesn't look like they were particularly very inspired while doing the color on this.
We often look at like that 90s stuff where it's like 300 shell casings double lit, and
right.
You think like the poor colorist. But man, this is no fun either.
And by the way, like the colorist is one thing, but then think about that little house in Connecticut with those old ladies that are cutting Ben-Day dots for this right here, Like that's got to be a nightmare. You do not want that year's Art Adams color separations to go to you at the house, at the sweatshop. Very obvious Star Trek Enterprise kind of gimmick.
With a little Kirby crackle in your space background.
Yeah.
I like that. I like seeing a guy who really is a new style like an Art Adams, but having some reference in there and some reverence for the man who came before,
Totally.
And it could be some of the inker's hands. I don't know who's on that page, but
those dots are spread out a bit. So to me, that's like Deadline Crunch background because I've seen
Deadline Kirby Crackle.
Yes, I've seen Art Adams go deep with this stuff, and it's almost the same approach as like the George Perez Kirby Crackle, which is like a day's worth of dot drawing.
Yeah, not a time saver Kirby Crackle.
I feel like we're seeing a little bit more of that Barry Windsor Smith proportionality in the faces and things.
Yeah, a little bit. I like the use of black here as a way to pop those figures, maybe as a way to save some time. And hey, you're going to cover it all in text anyway, so don't kill yourself on it.
We've seen lots and lots of characters just kind of standing like this, and Rob will do this in his Marvel comics, where it's just front views, bunch of characters stacked on top of one another. Look at that.
Breaking the rules of nobody doing anything.
Hagar the Horrible.
Right. That's funny.
And when Rob does his X-Men issue, we did a video on that. You look at the background and you look at the aliens. There's Boba Fett's in there. There's ET's in there.
That's quite a page. Those 4-tier pages are nuts to me. Because
Right.
you're already loaded up. This is page 34. It's not like this is a monthly that there's a little bit too much story in there.
Right. Yeah, I think he had all the time in the world and wanted to get it all in there for the bosses, man, so that Chris Claremont could do his thing. But it definitely takes the dynamics away when you have to do that many pages. But Adams shows and proves. He gets it in where he can. He gets a good full figure in almost every page. Maybe he's like the inventor of the anchor page or something.
I mean, that's right out of the playbook for that Image era.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, even this little shit, you see J. Scott Campbell do these like little goofball panels and things, and there were definitely some weird like bottom tier. That's a good one. That's a storytelling page, but these weird like those Jim Lee panels that would be just these dashed out little things that get squeezed in the bottom.
Jim Lee would do those as like full figure but silhouettes.
Yeah,
I'll be honest, I loved some of those. There was one, and it was Wolverine. It might have been like an early Extinction Agenda. It might have been X-Men 268, but I just remember like little Wolverines like cutting people up in black silhouette.
This is the one we all remember from this
Money.
issue, dude. You know, seeing that in black and white is just stunning. Here, let's take a look at that in black and white. Now.
Yeah. Admire some of those ink lines. You know, like some of the energy that's coming off is just so cool looking, and it looks like they must go in with some white media to bust that up. But just some really fun mark making around her. I love the circle and having all that stuff come in there, because that's your classic burst, you know, that goes back to the beginning of superhero comics, really updated here by Art Adams.
Yeah, it looks like a big Simonson page, you know, like the geometry of it feels Simonson-ish, and I feel like the letterer addresses that
100%.
with this kind of workman-like.
Totally.
And I mean, what is Simonson at the time? It's Thor comics, so get a little nod to workman lettering in there. We know what Orzechowski does typically.
I think the Orzechowski, it amazes me how much I think his lettering complements all this art. And we've looked at a variety of artists on X-Men books that Orzechowski's the consistent piece. It adds something visually. It really complements. And that's one of those things I criticize for a lot of the digital lettering today, where it looks like you're just dropping word balloons on top of stuff. Here, it's like part of the art.
Totally. The freaking Art Adams does not do himself any favors when he designs characters, because like this chainmail stuff that is on Storm's outfit, the sort of downplanes are the only pieces that gets inked. It all wraps around the character, so you have to understand the volume of the legs and shit in perspective, because that tube might start to need to go the other way. That's hard drawing, man.
It's no fun for anybody. Skulls in the mouth cavity in that tiny little panel. I'm sure if you're at home you missed that.
The size of a postage stamp. I read this comic a million times and never noticed that.
Unbelievable. Yeah, the splashes, like the half splashes that he sprinkles throughout the issue, just blow my mind.
By the way, this upshot with that nose, that is a Rob Liefeld Toad nose from early X-Force. Just that kind of Whoville gimmick.
Yeah, I've also pulled that a couple times on live streams. Whenever we turn on the camera.
We're turning it off. Super cool marks right there.
Mm-hmm. Any of the updates of like some of the Kirby markings I always find really fun.
We're winding down to the end of the issue.
I see so much Jim Lee on some of these pages.
Yeah.
When I think of his X-Men, he must have been channeling a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and you know, keep in mind it's very well drawn characters standing around in front and side views. Like we're winding down. Like art is running out of freaking time, man.
Fewer characters per page. Although until you turn here and go nuts, this is a pretty sweet page, but that's very simplified compared to some of the pages that we've looked at in this issue.
Yeah. He was taking it easy, doing only a 6-panel page and then only a 4-panel page.
How much does that black and white panel pop?
Yeah.
Talk about like the colorist really kind of like holding back and using that to great effect.
I would bet you this is a Mignola. And I say that because, you know why I say that? Because, and it's so weird, it's because stuff like Cosmic Odyssey and things, who is not inked by Mignola, looks like this.
You know what I see there is P. Craig Russell, and I realize he's not credited, but there's some crossover with Mignola and P. Craig Russell in the 80s.
And it's that shit. So like that mouth is the way Mignola drew mouths at this time. I'm gonna give that one up to Mignola.
I really love how all those lines pretty much radiate. Like even on her cape, they're kind of radiating out from that center explosion point.
And then Art Adams is out of steam, baby. He's done. This is it. This is Art Adams right here, dude. This top tier, just head falls down. I drew 70 pages of comics this year in two big special editions. Let me just get a little half splash with 2 characters and be done about it. Give me my motherfucking check.
Man, who's inking this hand?
That's a quickie.
Did they add that in house? Is that a Marvel bullpen edition? Did they redraw a hand or something? Because those lines don't look like anybody else's marks. Some interesting stuff on Loki's face mark wise, but this hand looks like somebody else came in and put that there.
That looks real fast, man.
Yeah, I was thinking Dan Green, and I that's a compliment. I love Dan Green's inks, but it's different than any of the other marks that I've seen in this issue.
You know what would be funny as shit, dude? Is if this storm drawing like might be from something else in here, and if it's a paste up to just like really get this thing done quick.
That would be incredible.
Because the lines are different than the character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. They're even different than Loki's face in the background. Like that hand looks like a different hand.
Right.
I wonder if the hand wasn't there or if it was a different drawing. It just doesn't make sense. Something looks different.
You see that stuff here though, like some of these marks on the drapery. But yeah, this is like what I always point to, like, wow, they got that one done quick. Like, that shit had to get wrapped up and go to the printer right away.
Yeah, this might have been the FedEx dudes here.
Yeah.
God, let me just take this hand real quick.
Dude, can you just hang out for a second? Go get a beer, man.
What a great issue. This is an issue that I picked up for 10 cents.
10 cents, yep. I was there.
Heroes Con on a day before the show opened.
Yep.
Man, that was a good score.
Boxes of 10-cent comics, and you pulled this one and that New Mutants joint out pretty quick.
Yeah, that was that's one of those great finds, which probably illustrates how pathetic my life is, that stands out as a highlight.
You're the king of Cartoonist Kayfabe. God damn it, you good to go?
I am.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available, and join our Patreon. The King Kayfabers on our Patreon get all of the videos before anybody. They are also watching us live stream record these videos, which would suggest that they're getting the cheapest copies of X-Men Annual 9 on the aftermarket, on Amazon, on eBay. But the vids are brought to you by the books that we make. So, Jimmy, let the people know what you have out there, dude.
Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive are all available in print right now. My next book is Street Angel Princess of Poverty, coming out from Image Comics in a couple of months. You can pre-order that now. This collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, going all the way back to the 20th anniversary first story. Also features a story that hasn't been published yet. So some new material in there as well. And you can join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see my new comics being serialized every Tuesday.
The Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus is coming out at the end of this year, man. 504 pages, which collects all 4 volumes of the Hip Hop Family Tree books that are out there. It's going to have 140 pages of additional art and material that is not in those first 4 books. Get it while it's hot. Put in your pre-order so that we know how many of these things to print up. Red Room is going to begin again with Crypto Killers #1 in May. It'll be coming out on a monthly basis. Just finished up all the comics work that goes into making that, so it should come out reliably. Each issue self-contained. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game. 2 trade paperbacks are out there full of Red Room comics to this day. 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design and WYSIWYG are out there. Jimmy, what else do we have going on?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, stickers, and lots more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
Great ways to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Give them those marching orders and we'll be on our way.
Read more comics.
So that rounds out our typical recording session. We're going to do 2 episodes with Eastman and Laird looking at Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 6 and 7, but with like 10 minutes, Jimmy, if we could do this Sotheby's video and take a look at some of the bits that, some of the paper or some of the art that I have before I ship it off to the auction house.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what you're sending.
Yeah, they choose.
Well, it's still new to me.
Yeah.
When is the auction?
It's in June. I don't think they have a date exactly set. Four pieces this round. kind of.
Hey, Soltec, while you're waiting on more Kevin O'Neill, we did do the artist edition of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which if you're just in it for the Kevin O'Neill art, man, that is a nice showcase.
Yeah, there's another, like, we gotta, we did that video before we realized, like, what we can get away with on the channel, and that we're really helping out American comics publishers a whole lot by doing these vids. So we were real breezy with it, and that could beg a closer look, because it's an 8-minute video looking at our artist edition of 6 issues worth of stuff.
Wow.
We breezed through it because we didn't know, like, can we show this stuff? It's $100 book. Like, maybe the publisher will be mad, but then they realize, like, oh, you guys are fucking selling shit for us, man. Do what you want.
Did you see Stuart Wynn's post? Did we already talk about this, of the Sin City Artist Edition?
Yeah,
he had it somewhere, and it was like, as seen on Cartoonist Kayfabe last copy.
Yeah. He mentioned the Kayfabe effect and stuff.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Ooh, Kevin O'Neill 2000 AD Artist Apex Edition.
That is going to be sick.
Yeah,
because it's a different period. He has 3 to 4 different periods of art making, man, and the Nemesis period is specific.
It's
unique.
Yeah, he's one of those artists that just has other people don't look like him. It's my favorite quality.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask that you hold your thing, and that should do the trick there. Yeah, super cool. We could do plugs like... We'll do plugs like at the end. Does that make sense?
Whatever, man.
Yeah, because I'm just going to put this up randomly whenever they say I can. I'll do something like that. All right. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
It's the second time I'm going to be participating in a Sotheby's auction this year in June. I believe early June. I don't got the exact date yet. But this year celebrates the 50th anniversary of hip-hop as a culture. There was a DJ Kool Herc, the guy who's considered to be the sort of originator of the culture, put together a back-to-school party around August of 73, invited girls to come in for like 25 cents. Guys came in for 50 cents. And he rocked the house all night in a rec room at the projects. And that's considered to be like ground zero of the birth of hip-hop. And it's the 10th anniversary of Hip Hop Family Tree. So the good people at Sotheby's Auction House wanted to include the comic into the mix, as they have a giant catalog of stuff that they're going to be auctioning off in the spirit of 50 years of hip-hop. Second time I've done it. It did very well for me the first time. They were happy with the results, and they want 4 lots of artwork to go into the catalog this go round from Hip Hop Family Tree. This piece here, LL Cool J holding the big ass boombox, was a variant cover that was done for the monthly comic, and just as like a b-boy image. Like, you don't even have to think of this as LL Cool J, right? It exudes that hip hop energy, man. You got the giant ass radio. I think when I drew it, it's that thing where you draw half and half so that you can just mimic.
It's very cool design-wise with that just big rectangle.
Right.
You know, circles for speakers, triangle for the light. I'm a fan of all the design stuff that can go into something like that.
Yeah. This is a piece that was just drawn for the omnibus.
It's another one of those design-heavy pieces.
Yeah. And we were looking at Sienkiewicz Moon Knight covers, and there's that one that he took from Muka, where the lady's red dress kind of bleeds into the background. And I wanted to do a piece like that. So this is going to be a page that kind of buttresses 2 chapters, 2 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree, because you don't want to start page 1 on the left. So there's going to be so much artwork in the omnibus edition that's sort of just extra art like this, man. So you see the blue lines that will drop off. That's your indicator, because you basically have to draw the figure to know where everything is so that you can reduce. And as a colored piece, super effective image. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. You extend the tie for the dramatic, for the design of it, make it geometric. I was not going to do this background square. I was just going to like let the color do its thing, but it's too much. And the arms and stuff were far enough apart that you could get this little wedge in there and that little piece, that it made sense to like really make the figure pop.
It reminds me of like in school whenever you're drawing and you do the negative space drawings, right? Where it's like, here's a chair, now draw just you're essentially drawing the shapes, but it's exactly what you have of like, this is the arm. But that's what you look for in those things as to why that rectangle works well there.
Yeah, and that's like an exercise, like drawing from the right side of the brain, where it's like, you're not drawing a chair.
Yeah.
You're drawing, like, match this shape up with that shape, get it accurate, and then move on to the next piece. So 2 big bombastic images will be part of the auction, and 2 of the most sought after Hip Hop Family Tree comic pages are going up for auction, and they are sought after for their quality, like for sort of the smorgasbord of stuff involved in all these pages, man. People always ask me for this page here that shows off the Bad Brains, Dead Kennedys, and the Misfits, which has very little to do with hip-hop until you realize the influence that these kinds of bands had on Rick Rubin, who is incredibly instrumental in the first, this sort of early middle years of hip-hop's creation, pre-Def Jam, post-Def Jam, all of that, and also influences on the Beastie Boys, who cannot be denied their hip-hop stripes. But before the music really got out of the Bronx, one of the ways that it was able to get out of that borough and go down to money-making Manhattan, it was the art movement that brought that kind of energy to the greater New York area. So you have these art shows that are direct descendants of like Warholian pop art kinds of endeavors, where you have people like Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Kenny Scharf, mixed up with graffiti writers like Zephyr, Dondi, Ram LZ, Iggy Pop shows up. These are super highly sought after pages.
They look really good in black and white. I've been looking at a lot of Roy Crane, and it's like black, white, and gray.
Yeah.
And you're getting all those values, and it's something we say all the time. Like, comics just don't look like this anymore in their original forms, and it's a shame.
Right.
This is why, in addition to the historical significance, like, they look amazing on screen.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Like, having that value, making them work in black and white actually makes me think, like, at some point you're going to have to do your Essentials hip-hop version.
Right. These 4 pieces are going to be amongst a giant catalog of hip-hop goods, historic hip-hop pieces of art, memorabilia. No expectations going in, just like last time when I participated before. I'm going on a big-ass bike ride or doing anything but sitting at home while this shit is going on. Have no expectations. The cool thing about working with these auction houses is that you can set a reserve of like what you would like to get, and if it doesn't meet that reserve, you just get your piece back. No harm, no foul. So it's like I have a certain value placed on these pieces that the buyer has to hit, and if they hit it, cool. I'm happy to get to part with the pieces at that price, and if not, give them back. I'll get myself more popular and then introduce it to the market again. But I don't sell stuff very often. I withhold a lot. We are the people who have full say in our artwork, and I am not one of these people who floods the market every time they got a new comic and they sell their pages for $300. My art is more rare, and I keep it that way because as the years go by, as I get older, these pieces become more valuable and more kind of essential to my sort of bottom line. I don't need to sell it. But when an opportunity like this comes up, man, to make some noise with Sotheby's auction house. There's a prestige to that. You know, there's like a coolness to that is hard to say no to. But once again, these are the 4 pieces that will be part of the lot, and we're shooting this video in April because I gotta ship these bitches off, man. So maybe this video goes live when the auction is near, and maybe there's links in the description below to each of those lots. I forget how we played it out before, but it was very successful the first time. And if you want to get, if you're a baller, if you're a heavy hitter, man, and you want to get your hands on some Eddie P art, this is the way to do it. But that's all I have to say about this. Thanks for your time, Jimmy.
Is it worth throwing out a plug for the Hip Hop Family Tree Artist Edition? People that would love to see this level of detail,
Yeah.
that maybe aren't going to be up to buy. There's only 4 pieces here.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't going to be able to take this home from that auction, but there's an artist edition.
Yes, it's true, Jimmy. I need to hire you, man. It's like a manager or something, man. Yes, we do sell some artist editions that are out there, studio editions, Fantagraphic studio editions. These pages are included, so that's your that's your layaway version of these books. Of
That's
this
the
artwork,
version I
man.
can afford.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Shot from the original artwork, the same size. It's actually bigger to give you all the marginalia and things. All of these pieces, I believe, are included in that, with the exception of this one. As you could tell, it's the paper's brighter because this is 10-year-old artwork right here. Got the artist edition, got the studio edition, got the omnibus coming out in the future. So Jimmy, why don't you drop a plug and we will be on with our business.
My latest books, The Plain Janes, Hulk Grand Design, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, are all available wherever you buy books. My next book, Street Angel Princess of Poverty, will be coming out. I think it's going to actually be in July. This poster was printed a little ahead of time before we had that date down. But Street Angel Princess of Poverty from Image Comics will collect all the Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive. So pick up both books. You'll have a complete run of the Street Angel comics on your shelf. You can also join me on patreon.com/JimRug, where you can see a lot of my original comics, art, and process. You can also read my latest comics that I'm serializing on there on Tuesdays. So check it out.
Thank you guys who follow and support Cartoonist Kayfabe for promoting us, getting us to a position where we can take advantage of these extra cool opportunities. It wouldn't happen without the support of the audiences that we've been building over time. Jimmy, why don't you give them those marching orders? We'll be on our way.
Make more comics.
Yeah, just be a little different with that one, man. So that'll come out. I'll figure out whatever's best. See what they say.
All right. That's it for what we're recording?
That's it, man. We got 2 turtles. I'll send you one, and I'll do the other. I think the first one's probably going to be the longer vid. Like, I'll do the longer one as like the Sunday or whatever, because I have the issue, and there's some good back matter, dude. Like, there's several other Mirage Studios books that are being talked about. That'll be good talking. Issue 8 is stories. Planned. There's stuff in there. There's some cool shit to talk about extra.
I like these talks that we have with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They usually leave me in a really good mood.
Yeah, we ain't stopping, man. And certainly at this point, man, Eastman is, he's on con schedule, and for him to take that time is just fantastic, because I know how it is, when you're about to split, and you don't need extra responsibility or tasks or anything like that. So it's very cool that he's taking that time. Prepping for that Lake Como trip, man, which, like, Peach is going. Like, I'm not going to see her those days. I might see her in Osaka if I take a day trip, because there's a convention down there. But, like, I think Jeff Darrow's going to Lake Como. Like, that's a special show, man. It's Italy. And Eastman will be there, so I think that's the next big one for him.
Yeah, I feel like don't love shows.
Yeah.
But I would do a show in Italy just so I could go back to Venice.
It's such a
you know what I mean? Like, once you're there.
Oh, right, because you would take a couple extra days.
Yeah. You build in some time. Like, if you're going to fly that far, it's kind of like, all right, I've made the flight. Right. Now let's do some other stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's a cool thing. Like, they're often, like, pretty good about, like, we'll get you the plane ticket, like what day you want to go home,
Right.
and they'll hook it up that way and stuff, which is pretty cool. You know, you gotta pay your lodgings and shit those other days. So for the 45 people that are in the chat, at the end of the month, and we'll talk about it later too, man. What's gonna happen? Like I'm taking a 2-week powder, going to Tokyo. Jimmy's gonna take a break after I get back, but we have a cache of videos that isn't even on the Patreon yet. So we'll make sure that all that stuff gets put on there before I split. So you guys will have a bounty of videos, but there might not be too much new stuff for a little while. I'm going to go out there with plans to shoot a couple of things. I think Jimmy has a couple of plans. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts, so I feel like it's the singular videos. It's just like, just do it and put it out. Like, that shit doesn't sustain a whole day on Kayfabe, so that could be a nice addition to things. But you guys will have a cache of videos that nobody else will until, you know, we roll them out one day at a time, over time. But we built up our arsenal. We're actually good. You know, like, we can still have a full day. I think we should try to record when I get back. Like, it's like, I land, I'll go to sleep, I wake up, I read some stack. We figure that out, and then like the next day record, and then I think you'll have a day to chill and pack, and then leave, and then we could have like this like batch of vids, and you know, I'll probably record with Tom on one of the days where you're gone and stuff, and you know, shit could be cool, but.
Yeah.
Red Room is done, man, so I have to just like take a step away and prepare my next comic. Take a little time to smell the roses or the cherry blossoms.
Go eat some good food.
For sure.
That was a big chapter in Kitchen Confidential.
Yeah.
was his first trip to Tokyo and
his,
eating there.
His episode of Parts Unknown, Tokyo.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
It's fantastic. Like, cause he does all the he goes to the robot restaurant, which is shit food, but it's a spectacle, and he fights a dude like his interns and stuff. He is like, get me a fucking Lawson's egg salad sandwich, and like the kid had to like go miles because they were so sold out, and that's my breakfast. Like I every night when I go back to the hotel, I stop at the convenience store. I get two Lawson's sandwiches, some apples, like squares or whatever, maybe a banana, and then put it in the fridge. That's my breakfast the next day before I go on my move. It's amazing. It's on white bread, you know, like you wouldn't think like what's so special about it, but it's the texture, and it's also like how they prepare it. It's so silky smooth, and it's just like a joy to eat. It's so hard to explain, but when I saw him shout that to his I'm like, I get it, because I'm on that shit myself. What time is it?
11:25.
Excellent, guys. We're going to move into the next room and prepare for Eastman and Laird. You guys will get these videos before anybody. You know how it goes, man. Thanks for hanging out with us, and read more comics.